It is 6:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. A scary scene last night during Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest after collapsing on the field. Hamlin's heartbeat was restored, and he was transported to a nearby hospital where he is currently in critical condition. CPR was administered to Hamlin, and he received oxygen. Hamlin collapsed following his tackle of Cincinnati's T. Higgins midway through the first quarter. The league postponed the game 90 minutes after kickoff. The Titans officially named Josh Dobbs their starting quarterback for Saturday's AFC South title game at the Jacksonville Jaguars. College football, Penn State routed Utah 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. Tulane with an incredible comeback win over USC. 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl. LSU stomped out Purdue 63-7 in the Citrus Bowl. And Mississippi State, in their first game following the death of Mike Leach, defeated Illinois 19-10 in the ReliaQuest Bowl. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
And the Tuesday edition of the show off and running this morning. Motorboat Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone. A horrifying night of the NFL and the latest on Damar Hamlin to begin today's show as the sports world and the world stops to reflect on what was a stunning dose of reality and perspective last night in the National Football League in Cincinnati. With 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster, with veteran journalist on the broadcast side of things, Kayla Anderson, and Jonathan Schaefer, our producer this morning. I'm Will Bowling, and guys, we have a lot of fun on this show, and sports are a reflection of life, and last night we're reminded again of how fragile all of this really is, and we will give the latest on Damar Hamlin, Buffalo Bills safety, 24-year-old young man whose life was in jeopardy last night, and there's not much more that we can say because, like the guys on ESPN last night, this was scary, horrifying, and it gives us a chance to have a lot of perspective this morning.
Absolutely, man. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers to him, like legitimately thoughts and prayers. There's a guy prayed for him last night, thinking about him all last night. This wasn't a one-off, hey, yeah, I hope you're fine. This was a in-your-face, see this, develop type of situation live. So that was serious. And to be on, even more in-depth, my boys were watching it too, having to explain to them. My oldest, for the most part, is, I think, over football, but my youngest, for sure, is chomping at the bit to kind of play a little bit. So having that thought in my mind, like, as a parent, his mom is usually in the stands on the sideline. To watch that happen to your kid, man, is something significant, shocking for sure, right, Kayla, Will, listeners? I thought about it. We had in our group chat last night, Will, you said, man, I can't go to sleep until we figure out what's what. Yep. That's where I was, too.
Yeah, I was the same way. I didn't go to sleep until I at least kind of had watched a little bit of Ryan Clark on ESPN and Scott Van Pelt do some analysis. They gave some updates in terms of everybody at the hospital. Bill's teammate, Stephon Diggs, had gone there to be with his teammate. And right now we just sit and wait. Obviously, as we know, he's in critical condition. But, watching that live last night, we have seen things happen in football before in a game, right? We've seen guys come off the field on a stretcher or even in an ambulance. But it was a different feeling last night. It was just, your heart almost just was breaking at that very moment for this young man and his mom, who was there watching the game. That just absolutely pains me that she went to go watch her son play a game he loves, and she was leaving in an ambulance with him.
Yeah.
The teammates from both sides in terms of the Cincinnati Bengals, but especially the Buffalo Bills, his teammates, it was just terrifying to watch the expressions on their face. And it was hard to watch unfold live. And in front of a national audience, that was really tough.
Ryan Clark said it best. I think, of course, there's a lot of conversation around it, but this is probably one of the best things I've heard anybody say about it, and that was Ryan, because Ryan almost lost his life, was close to losing his life before they got more understanding about his health condition as far as playing in Denver. But he said last night, we watch a guy live out his dream and it become a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, I was just like, it is a dream. And it still is a dream of a bunch of people. Heck, we're about to be into draft season in a sense, right? Where guys are chasing that dream.
Right.
And to watch it, as he said, turn into a nightmare was probably about as real as it got in hearing somebody speak on it.
We celebrate this sport. We celebrate the skill, the strength, and the determination that it takes to get to this level in this sport. And I thought Ryan was so eloquent in his comments with Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter last night.
Yep.
It makes all of us question the motivation behind all of it. And when this game was in the balance, when there was an opportunity to warm up for 5 minutes and then go play again for this Buffalo team and for the Cincinnati team that had watched this tragedy unfold, and T. Higgins, who deserves our thoughts and our prayers and all of those good thoughts today as well. It's hard to imagine just motivating yourself to get back in that arena after what we saw happen last night. It provides, like we led the show with, a terrifying dose of reality. The news as we know it this morning is Buffalo safety Damar Hamlin had his heartbeat restored on the field after suffering cardiac arrest during last night's game against the Bengals, and he is currently in critical condition at a Cincinnati hospital. That was the Bills' statement early this morning. CPR was administered to the 24-year-old Hamlin on the field for multiple minutes after he collapsed following his tackle of Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins, a Tennessee native. Hamlin received oxygen, according to the ESPN broadcast, as he was placed in the ambulance and taken off the field some 16 minutes after he collapsed and was then driven to nearby University of Cincinnati Medical Center. So, guys, this morning, we're going to continue to follow this story. We're going to react to the way this was handled, the way it was handled on the broadcast side. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to be overly critical of any person that was involved in this, and the league and the broadcast professionals and the decisions that were made in the aftermath of a chilling event that went quickly from a sports story to a national news story to life and death. Mm-hmm. And I think we have to err on the side of caution, of patience, to have the conversation and honor this young man for what him and his family went through last night before we point fingers, before we rush to judgment and make this a negative story about anyone. We need to use that energy to uplift this young man, to reflect on his legacy both on and off the field, and tell you the story as we know it up to the minute. So that's what we're going to do this morning, guys. And, Ramon, as unfortunate as it is for you as well, you've been on the field for a number of events like this, and you've seen firsthand the way this affects families and locker rooms and the entire sport of football as we know it.
No doubt. The first one for sure was and by the way, I'll say this about the broadcast. I thought in those scenarios, from what I know about TV production now, Kayla, listeners, there's no plan for that. And I thought they handled it about as best as anybody could in a situation where you probably just didn't want to talk. I know people were critical of certain people on the screw that. No. There is no game plan for that. They had
no choice but to be on air until they were told not to. And I felt with the circumstances that were happening, they did a pretty good job of doing that.
Who was I speaking to recently about that? And Kayla, it's great that you're here because there's, from my understanding, like everything about TV is a production.
Yeah.
Nothing is pretty much
and
off
until
script.
They say you're going to break,
yeah,
you're not. You are on television. You are on camera. You are ad-libbing or saying whatever kind of information that you have been given, which wasn't a lot last night.
No. No.
So you're right.
I just want to tip my hat for some people who weren't experts on that to actually just have to deal with that. My first situation with that was Inky. He comes on here tomorrow. I might actually check and see if he come on earlier just to have that conversation about how important is the game, because that's what we're speaking about at this point right now. Inky's situation was, of course, you've read his story, heard his story. He goes to just make a simple play, same as last night, right? With Damar Hamlin, make a play and he doesn't get up. Everybody's just like, okay, he's probably knocked out. That's, we even think about those situations. We minimize those.
Right.
He's just knocked out. No, you're not just knocked out in those. This is like vital stuff. And Ink ended up busting veins in his neck. And what's interesting about Ink was if Ink didn't immediately get rushed to the hospital and put in surgery, he would have died. He was internally bleeding out. And I can talk about this because he said it. I watched it up close in person. I was my college roommate. He and I lived downstairs in the duplex we were staying in, and his room was directly next to mine. So I saw everything about his process up to a point. And the understanding of what actually had happened. Ink is about as tough as anybody I've ever known in my entire life, to this day, still. And to have him finish a game, see him laid out, have to finish that game, and then immediately after that game, watch him, go in the hospital and have emergency surgery, don't know anything till the next day, and you find out, he could have died.
Yeah.
Imagine one of your main veins in your neck, you're internally bleeding out. And here he was simply trying to make a play. That was about as scary as it get. And there's more to that story for sure. We'll get more into it. And, of course, the Shazier situation I saw up close and personal, too. Crazy.
Coming up this morning, our normal Tuesday football season routine of ranking the top and the bottom of the NFL. But, again, this story will be followed as it breaks and with all the information that we have over the course of the morning until 10 o'clock, as long as we are here today. Ben Arthur of Fox Sports scheduled to join us at 8:20. Ron Slay at 9:20 this morning. Top 7 and bottom 3 as well in hour number 2. But we continue to reflect on the horrifying tragedy last night of the NFL. Damar Hamlin suffering cardiac arrest, being taken to a Cincinnati hospital. We continue our reaction and give you the latest that we know with postponements and the way this was handled last night by all parties. Coming up next on our Bone, Kayla and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Hey, it's Will Bowling here from my friends at Elite Company. You deserve all the comforts of home, including endless hot water at your fingertips. Tankless water heaters powered by new recirculation systems save energy, money, time, and space. Elite Company has a limited time offer of $750 off or special financing on a tankless water heater with a purchase of a recirculation system. Let me tell you that again. That's a limited time offer of $750 off or special financing on a tankless water heater with a purchase of a recirculation system. Don't miss out on this great deal. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000. They're online at leecompany.com. Trust the folks who have been trusted in our community for 80 years. 615-567-1000. That's leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need.
Joe, we just got it. The league is going to officially suspend play for this evening, and they will get with the teams and they will try to find a date or whatever their next move is. But for this evening, the game is officially suspended. The game will not be played this evening, and hopefully before we leave the air tonight, they will try to provide an update on the player.
It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone. That was last night as Monday Night Football officially postponed and canceled on the Monday night edition. Will be played at a later date. More on that coming up in just a moment. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Jonathan Schaefer, our producer. Jeff Miller, NFL Executive Vice President of Communications, Public Affairs, and Policy, answered a question last night, about 6 hours ago, actually, in the early morning today, about the future of this game, saying, quote, "There is nothing in consideration right now. Our concern is for the player and his well-being at the appropriate time. I'm sure that we'll have a conversation around the next steps regarding this game."
Appropriate. I'd have to know as a teammate, and I was having this discussion with people in a group chat, like, man, do you even play this game? I was like, at this point, make it a coin flip. Like, to go back out there with this attachment to it, do a coin flip for all I care, man. Unless I know he's totally fine, up walking, vitals are normal, like that's a hard pill to swallow. And again, like I said, I've gone through this a couple of times, like real close to me, as far as being on the field with guys like this. And that's all you want in the initial onset of everything. Are they okay? You know, when guys get carted off, where's the movement? Are they moving their foot, leg, arm? Give us a thumbs up. Like, you can look at sometimes and see guys go out and they're overly cautious with them, which you're supposed to be. Medical professionals are supposed to be that way. But you see that thumbs up look that they do in movies or they do on field? No, that's crucial. That's all anybody in that Cincinnati stadium wanted to see last night was a thumbs up or something, and we didn't get that.
I think it's hard right now to even talk about when this game could possibly be rescheduled or when they might find time to play this, because honestly, I'm a human being first and foremost, and I look at these players that I cover every single day as human beings first and foremost. Yeah. And until we know anything in terms of he's okay, it's hard to even think about that. But on top of that, also just to play in even the immediate future for some of these teammates, you don't know what they're going through right now. Some closer probably than him to others, but all in all, they're all his teammates. And the mental health part of this, too, is very, very real.
Yes. So let's go to Shazier's situation. Happened in Cincinnati also. And that was a very violent game. I think that game possibly has some rule changes to it. But Shazier tell you, and anybody around him will tell you, I don't think the way we were playing that specific game led to what happened to him, as far as, you know, his back and him being partially paralyzed or having some restrictions in his lower extremities moving forward. The hit happens, and Shazier, man, is like Inky, okay? He's like one of those guys. Shazier, man, used to come in every day fully dressed. Like, we come in light clothes, right? Will, Kayla, we dress. Shazier would have on jeans or khakis, a shirt with a jacket, and a crossover bag to go in there just to take that off, put on his workout clothes, and go watch film. A true professional in every aspect of it from day one, from the day he came in and started getting some burn. He's always in the weight room, always took care of himself, started to get a cook, took care of everything possible, right? And was just a heck of a player, too. Pittsburgh's been searching for that type of guy since he had his injury, okay? They ended up employing two guys to do the job of one, just to highlight of what he was as a player. So when you see a guy like that with those type of characteristics hit the ground and then don't move, initially, it's just like, okay, he's going to be all right. And then the stadium gets quiet, and you get concerned. And you see him on the ground, and the medical professionals are coming out in the cart, and you ask the questions, is he moving? Then there's so many people around on that field because there's a lot of personnel, players, and staff out there, and you can't get close to him to get an answer from him. Yeah. The team won't give you an answer because they don't know in those moments. So all the speculation, as you said, that goes into your mind, I saw somebody in the chat that says, like, some of those players last night will have a little bit of PTSD. I have a little bit of thought when it comes down to how violent football is. I tell you guys, sometimes I see hits and I cringe because of how it looks. But seeing Shazier's situation kind of unfold and him be on the ground, not moving his lower extremities, and him to go out, and I think he ended up giving us a thumbs up as he left. But to hear the conversation, he's not moving.
Yeah.
I remember hearing guys that were on the field with him defensively who I knew were tough guys, who I knew it didn't matter, how they played the game. They were going to play it hard. Just bust out in tears, like crying, like losing it because of the understanding that he's doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. He's in the same situation that I am. And Shazier's situation was a back issue. Me, myself, I've had back issues. My rookie year in the league, I'm simply doing a squat, y'all. Weight on my back. I'm a young guy not playing a whole lot, so it was a heavy rack. Go down, and I come back up, and I feel this sharp pain down my leg. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Couldn't walk, barely move, and next thing you know, I'm in the doctor's office getting evaluated, end up having to have like a nerve block, an epidural. So seeing Shazier's situation and me having a back issue years before I even met him and saw that situation was scary. My initial thought was, Moan, calm down, bring everybody together, bring yourself together. And as we resumed play, because we saw movement out of Shay, my thought, and I had somebody ask me last night, was just make it off this field.
Yeah.
Just make it off this field. And I played the game tiptoeing. I won't lie. I think the guys on the other side was doing the exact same thing. It got to a point where it was like, bleep this, man. Hey, let's get out of here. Y'all win, don't matter. Get off this field. Walk off this field. That was about as big of a thought. Like, I remember that moment right then, legitimately saying to myself, God, I just want to walk off this field.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that being the mindset when you got this guy that potentially is trying to beat you in front of you? Like, just make it off. Walk off this field. And I had back issues. I'm in a conversation now with the NFL as far as like line of duty. This type of stuff happens just because a guy walks around after they're done playing doesn't mean there's a lot of issue. I saw another guy last night, Uche Nwari from Jaguars, 38 years old. I had conversations with this guy. Abruptly dies of a heart attack. 38 years old at his wife's house, and I'm just like, God, dog. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a violent game. This is a real game. For the people that always says this game is soft. This game is, hey, you guys don't play like you used to. No, the athlete is bigger. The athlete is faster. They're smarter. They're quicker. They understand different angles now. It's a different ball game that's been played. It used to be where a guy can play a game, go into halftime, and smoke a cigarette. It used to be guys finish the season off, and then they just go work a construction job to earn more money. No, guys make enough bread now because that's the risk factor of it, and people pay to watch the game, to where they train year-round. You end the season in January, you're back working out by middle of February. That's how it goes. So guys are way more advanced than where they used to. So to say that the game is less physical, I think last night kind of brings that to a reality a little bit. And it just brings perspective into, one, you do love it. You do chase it. You ask most guys, man, would you change it? And I'll probably tell you myself, nah. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to change much about it. I accept everything that comes along with this.
And that's why Ryan Clark said he came back, because he loved the game so much.
I knew Ryan Clark and never knew he almost died until I sat down with RC. RC was like, bro, I can't play this game. We were going to Denver. I can't play this game. What are you talking about, RC? It's like, bro, I almost died. Mm-hmm. I lost a spleen, and what else did he end up losing? Gallbladder. If he had they had taken off and ended up landing the plane back down, and RC had to go have emergency surgery to save his life. And we were looking at him with the Tebow game that Tebow threw the touchdown in. RC couldn't play that game, had a backup safety in. And all I'm thinking to myself, So what? You know what I'm saying? Because if RC was there, I don't think that pass is made. But RC couldn't go play because he'd have lost his life. And he'd say that at times, man, I'll give my life to this game. And he meant it. But I think last night probably put that in perspective to him, to be like,
absolutely,
did I really mean that? But that's the passion you play the game with. That's how you approach it. And again, it's so many different avenues to get to that level. And I still say this too, for the coaches that coach this game, coach it the right way. People are dying to get my kids to come play ball, and y'all know where I stand on that. I'm good. They're good. I don't know if I trust you with my kid yet. How are you teaching? When you see these dumb videos of coaches lining the big kid up against a small kid running through their chest, who is that for? That ain't for the kid. That's for you. I don't believe in anybody taking kids out there and teaching them the game the wrong way. And I know last night don't correlate to what happened. But the game of football is a very fragile, very strong, very violent sport. And for you to just want kids out there to be moving bodies on your field, I'm not for that. Ask anybody that's played the game. They're not for that either. Love and respect this game. It's provided a lot for a lot of people that's not involved in the game. Whether you're betting on it, whether you just watch it for enjoyment, whether you watch it for an escape. But it's still a violent, need to be respected profession game that we all play for free at moments, and some have the ability to get paid for it. But I respect every level of it. And people that curate the sport have to approach it the exact same way, too.
Mm-hmm. The NFL's Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Troy Vincent, last night said the league never considered resuming play on Monday night, saying it never crossed our minds to have teams warm up to resume play. That's ridiculous. Paul Denner Jr., a senior writer covering the Bengals for The Athletic, adding that Vincent says it would have been insensitive and stresses that it was never a consideration. Obviously, if you're watching this game, you saw the initial reaction from Sean Smith, from the entire officiating crew saying, all right, let's give each other 5 minutes on both sides of the field to prepare yourselves to play. You saw the visual of Stephon Diggs in the middle of the huddle trying to rally his teammates, trying to get them ready to play a football game again, but nobody was moving.
No.
And it was clear that this game was not going to be resumed at that point. And I think that once this was put in the hands of the commissioner's office and Roger Goodell and the players went to the locker rooms, there was never any way this game was going to be played last night.
No.
At that point, I believe the right decision was made, obviously, to not play this game last night. But I have to credit Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think for being professionals and being patient and poised leaders in that moment. And you could see the conversation with Sean Smith, the referee, and Sean McDermott clearly stopping things in the middle of that 5-minute kind of cool down period before they were going to play. You knew there was no way Sean McDermott was letting his team take the field after what they had just witnessed and what they were feeling in that moment.
No.
And seeing that live was interesting too, just seeing that unfold as, Zach Taylor came over to their locker room.
Yeah.
Clearly got on the phone with the league office or somebody with the league, it looked like. And I'm sure just confirming with both of them. But like you said, there was no way they could ever move forward playing that game. And I'm just glad that those two coaches made it abundantly clear that, this needs to be canceled now.
And there's so much that goes into and I've been a huge advocate of, look, we got to advance the technology in the league. I've said that for a long time. Like, look, as the athlete gets better, we can't just use those old shoulder pads that guys they bring. I think it's famous. The famous one is Leonard Fournette bringing Hills from LSU and still playing in his college shoulder pads. Like, that's outdated, if you ask me. I get there's a level of comfort, and guys are that way with their equipment, right? Every aspect about it. When guys are going through the Lance Frank injuries in the NFL, it's like, man, we got to figure something out with these shoes. Like, that's a huge part of it. The way guys receive and take impact now, shoulder pads has to be at the forefront of it because that was a hard shot in a sense, the way he got hit. I told you, like, I think lacrosse players, when they throw the ball across the field the way they do, I think they have a history of, like, deaths happening in their sport because that round ball is not a soft ball, and it hits you in the right spot. Cardiac arrest can happen right there. Me personally, I've had a hit in my chest, in the middle of my sternum. Like, I can stretch, and I got scar tissue, like, in my sternum.
Right.
And I can only imagine the hit that I received took me back. I remember it specifically. And I couldn't bench much after that. It was a situation to where I had to switch shoulder pads, tie them tighter as far as the protection around it. And that happens more often than we probably give ourselves credit for. And you just kind of move on because that's the game. The NFL, I'll say this. They had to been okay with last night's production in a sense that they lost money. That's the least thing that's on their mind. And in losing it, I think moving forward, they do have to upgrade the health and safety aspect of not just the game, equipment, understanding of how to play it. I had somebody ask me last night the way offensive players, and we saw Stephon Diggs do this early in the game, and I was like, oh, Stephon Diggs a dog. But defensive players can't lower to hit. And they tried this about maybe 8-10 years ago in the league where they started penalizing offensive players for lining guys up and dipping and bull ramming through them too. Again, T. Higgins' situation was he's trying to get extra yards. That did have a lot at stake on it. But I know a lot of people don't want to have this conversation. Oh, you're just making the game softer. The game will never be soft. But that lining up for an offensive player to dip their shoulder, we've seen Derek do it.
Yeah.
We've seen everybody do these things, and there's no penalty for an offensive player. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying there has to be some eyeballs on how you approach that. How can one side do it, but the other can't as effectively?
Yeah, and I think one more thing I'll add to just the NFL in terms of they need to continue to progress with certain things. And I think you saw them go backwards a little bit with the Tua Tagovailoa situation this year with the concussions that the young man has endured. And the handling of it, it still disappoints me. And to know that he's not playing right now, again, because of a concussion, and I feel like it was mishandled in the first place, and I know that's not specifically the league that was doing that,
right.
But we need to have a clear-cut perspective of what we do in those situations as a coach or as a medical doctor, a team doctor, because that right there, I think, put people on notice too this year, fans on notice, like what is going on with the handling of certain situations.
Because it's doggy dog, real in and real out. Oh, they'll be fine. It's always they'll be fine.
I could argue I don't know if I want to see Tua play football again.
That's a conversation to be had. It is.
So
615-737-1045 is our number. We'll start with John of the Borough coming up next as we continue to react to the stunning scene in Cincinnati last night. Postponement of Bengals-Bills and the injury and the life of Damar Hamlin. The subject of conversation this morning. We'll cover this story, every facet of it, as we continue this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
If you have a wet basement or crawl space, it's time to call United Structural Systems. We've all heard about these guys for a long time, and for good reason. They've served Middle Tennessee since 1994, and they've helped thousands of satisfied residential customers. They are the go-to company when it comes to foundation repair and waterproofing. And if you have a wet basement or crawl space, you don't have to put up with that. Water intrusion and moisture can give you all sorts of problems down the road, and you want to get this fixed. It could be because you have poor drainage or surface water flooding over the walls, or underwater pressure forcing water into your basement. It could be a plumbing leak. You just don't know. But the team at United Structural Systems will find out why you have a wet basement or crawl space, and will give you a plan to fix it. If you decide to move forward, you don't have to pay a dime until the work is done and you are satisfied. Get that free estimate from the people I trust. Go to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or you can call them at 615-227-2275. Again, the number is 615-227-2275. United Structural Systems.
I think the first thing, this is about Damar Hamlin. And it's about a young man at 24 years old that was living his dream, that a few hours ago was getting ready to play the biggest game of his NFL career, and there's probably nowhere else in the world he wanted to be. And now he fights for his life.
ESPN's Ryan Clark, eloquent and very, very emotionally intelligent last night with Scott Van Pelt on ESPN in the aftermath of a tragedy in the NFL as Buffalo Bills 24-year-old safety Damar Hamlin continues to be hospitalized in critical condition this morning. We continue to follow this story with you, and Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling with you. And we go to the phones where John in the Borough leads us off this morning. Hey, John.
What's up, John?
Good morning, everybody. Usually we call in and we're all having a little bit of fun, but today's kind of a day for reflection. As an EMT, I watched everything that happened last night. I watched the reaction. I was paying attention. Everybody was paying attention to his status, and I was paying attention to what medical personnel were doing. When EMTs and paramedics are at sporting events, we defer to athletic trainers. Athletic trainers tell us what to do and when to do it, and it's a yes sir, yes ma'am, kind of follow orders kind of deal. The reaction of the medical staff last night and how they treated everything, taking him off the stretcher to perform effective CPR. CPR for 9 minutes. Guys, I've done CPR for 7.5 minutes on someone that didn't make it, and I've helped do CPR for 25 minutes on someone that made it. It's all of that stuff. I could not be more impressed with how the medical staff reacted and interacted with everything last night. And the players, or former players, I should say, Ryan Clark, Troy Aikman's commentary, and Kurt Warner's commentary, where they were saying this game needs to stop. We don't need to play. You pretty much heard Joe Buck and Troy Aikman begging to end the game last night. I thought that was something that was refreshing. It wasn't this next man up idea that we're all very, very used to. It's a very humanizing moment, and that was something that I really respected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Wow.
Appreciate the call.
That's what John said there. And just thank you for what you do too. That's the stories that you were just telling there. I mean, I couldn't imagine. And what you said about the medical staff, you're exactly right. And when I was watching extended coverage last night on Scott Van Pelt, he specifically said because he was in the studio watching all the different angles that were up of the stadium that ESPN provides back at the hub.
Yeah.
And he said, the one thing I noticed was the urgency of the medical personnel.
Oh, yeah.
More than I've ever seen before in that moment.
Yeah. It's again, I'll say this about it. There couldn't have been, in a world of something traumatic happening, a better place to have it happen than in that stadium other than being in a hospital.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably in the stadium because you got people on spot right then, action, different type. You have cardiologists, you have brain people there, you have just training staffs on both sides. You have And let's be honest about this too. The NFL has to have this right too. With that type of precaution. I think moving forward, I played in games before in the middle school where I watched my kids, or at basketball games where there's not medical professionals on site. And I know that costs money. I know there's certain requirements you got to do to get through those types of things. But if you have the biggest sport in America have a situation like this and potentially save this kid's life because you have on spot staff, medical staff, there has to be something moving forward. I know high school games have it. Middle school games are hit and miss. I've seen kids with with ankle injuries and stuff like that, and it's just their parents taking them off or a coach lifting them up with other players. I think we take it as a given sometimes that everybody's going to make it out, and that ain't the case some of the time.
The NFL Executive Vice President, Health and Safety, Jeff Miller, last night, this was from Stefania Bell of ESPN, says the emergency action plan that each team rehearses annually in advance of the season worked as designed on Monday Night Football last night. As a part of that plan, there is an airway management physician on site, an ambulance at each stadium, at a level 1 trauma center in each city. All medical personnel, team and independent, and game officials also meet an hour before kickoff to coordinate and review the plan.
Mm-hmm.
The medical professionals who were on site, who reacted as quickly as they did, are heroes.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they may have saved Damar Hamlin's life with the speed and the poise with which they reacted in a stunning circumstance last night.
Yep, they did. And that's why I've always personally took care of the training staff, because you just never know what you're going to go through, be diagnosed with, or I've seen other people deal with too. It's not just a me thing. I think this is an us thing. And every coach at every level need to take the CPR. I did as I'm coaching sports.
Absolutely.
Don't be faking like you took the test. No, this is why you go do that. Yes, it's tedious, but you never know what situation you're going to find yourself in and what it takes to actually save somebody's life. You think just pumping somebody's chest is it? No, you actually have to like really decompress.
You got to know how to
you got to know how to
correctly.
do it. I challenge y'all coaches now.
Mm-hmm.
Make the proper steps to get it to where if something like this does happen, you're in the best situation to actually help that kid and their families through these types of situations.
Well, one other thing we want to follow this morning, and our duty to the public and to the community, is keeping you updated on weather situations with nasty weather coming into Middle Tennessee this morning. I want to let you know now as well, there is a tornado watch for a number of counties this morning in Middle Tennessee, including Davidson, Sumner, Williamson counties. But this will stay in effect until 11 a.m. this morning. Cheatham, Houston, Montgomery, Stewart, Dixon, Humphreys, Perry, Wayne, Hickman, Lewis, Robertson counties. No, that's a lot of counties that we rattled off there, and we'll continue to update you on severe weather in the area. And if you're driving out there, please be safe with the nasty weather that is on the way. But much more to come on the NFL's reaction last night, ESPN, how the way they handled Damar Hamlin's injury and his hospitalization last night in Cincinnati. This is a story where we're going to continue to give you the latest breaking news as we get it and continue to reflect on a stunning night in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. More coming up next as Hour 2 begins on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
From the Superbook.com sports desk, it is 7:01. Good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. A scary scene last night during Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest after collapsing on the field. Hamlin's heartbeat was restored, and he was transported to a nearby hospital where he is currently in critical condition. CPR was administered to Hamlin, and he received oxygen. Hamlin collapsed following a tackle of Cincinnati's T. Higgins midway through the first quarter. The league postponed the game 90 minutes after kickoff. Titans officially named Josh Dobbs their starting quarterback for Saturday's AFC South title game at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Titans placed safety Andrew Adams on injured reserve. They signed safety Mike Brown to the active roster from the Cleveland Browns practice squad. They also signed safety Nate Meadors to the practice squad. College football, Penn State defeated Utah 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. Tulane rallied to shock USC 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl. LSU, no problem with Purdue, 63-7 in the Citrus Bowl. And Mississippi State, in its first game after the death of Mike Leach, defeated Illinois 19-10 in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Tonight, college basketball, Mississippi State at number 8 Tennessee to take on Rick Barnes and the Basket Vols. We'll join that game in progress following Mac Talk at 7 o'clock. For foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
A very good Tuesday morning to you in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. With 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Jonathan Schaefer, our producer. I'm Will Bowling as we continue to reset the headlines and update the status of Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin this morning, who suffered cardiac arrest last night in Cincinnati, collapsing on the field in the first quarter, taken to an ambulance and to a local hospital in Cincinnati. Ramon Foster, our former NFL player, our veteran of this league. And Kayla, you've covered a number of horrifying events and scary situations through your time in sports as well. I want to lean on both of y'all's experiences today as we reflect, as we look back at what happened last night, the way this was handled by medical professionals and by broadcast professionals. And guys, we mentioned it at the beginning of the show, sports are a reflection of life, a reflection of the emotions that we feel, the camaraderie, fraternities of sport for men and women of all ages. But it provides a sobering reality and perspective last night when life and death is discussed in Cincinnati.
Yeah, for sure, man. And again, I said this earlier, but Ryan Clark said it as best as anybody with this one particular statement. You have a guy who's living out his dream, have possibly his worst nightmare. You know, and I thought that was about as significant as anybody could ever say about this situation. It's a game, and the stakes that were at hand last night went to the back burner. Like, you turn the burner off when something like this happened. Reading just I've seen bad injuries. I've seen people get knocked out. I've seen people break bones. I remember the Ware kid from Louisville. I never saw the play live because I couldn't stomach it, but watching his bone come out of his leg on the jump shot, y'all remember, like, we've seen all these things. I had a former teammate, Ryan Shazier, who lost movement of his lower bodies. One of my college teammates, one of my best friends to this day, Inky Johnson, almost lose his life and bleed out internally was something I've witnessed also. And in each one of those moments, you try to find the mindset to shake yourself back in place. You try to find yourself in a position to say, man, they're going to be all right. But hearing that situation last night to where they had to do CPR on the field, I think hits home a little bit more. I think it brings perspective to how serious this game is, how violent this game is, how and why organizations, coaches, leagues are choosing to play the game a whole lot more safer. For the people that say football is soft, you guys don't hit like you used to. Well, those guys in the 70s and 80s don't look like the guys in the 90s, 2000s, and 2020s. It's a different game. It's a different style of play. Guys are faster, bigger, stronger. You mean to tell me you have 300-pounders that can run a 4.7 40? Who else does that? You have guys now, if you're not running the 4.3 as a wide receiver DB, you're knocked on that. Imagine running that fast and running into people. I think looking at the way special teams is played, kickoff return, punt return. I know it's an exciting aspect of the game, but you got to side-eye that a little bit and say you got guys running 22, 24, 25 miles per hour, just running, spearing people. It changes your mindset. Shazier's situation to me, and I told y'all earlier, was this. After watching him not move and myself have back issues, I said, I just want to walk off this field. Whatever you have to, just get off the field. Mm-hmm. The game is cool. We got to finish it out because the league says so at that time when we were in Cincinnati, when Shazier lost lower body function. But you go to the sideline, I'm shook. I'm looking at my teammates be shook. Mentally just crushed because that's one of the toughest dudes I'd ever played with. One of the most athletically gifted guys I'd ever seen in my life. I'm talking about entire life, just athleticism out of this world. And to see him just one play, be done. And here I am thinking to myself, just make it off. And I play a position where there's a collision every single play. There's no play off as far as collisions. All I was thinking, just, get off the field, Mo. Walk off this field.
As a journalist for 16 plus years now, doing sports my whole life, I am so blessed to cover sports every day of my life. I mean, it is like what I love to do. And mostly when you go to cover sports, you're covering really encouraging stories or stories of celebration or overcoming odds. I haven't had to cover a lot of situations where it's life or death. And my first, thoughts go to the family immediately. Because over time, you get to know these players as people. As human beings, first and foremost. You get to know about their backgrounds, their families, what they've had to overcome to get to this moment. The things they do in the community, which we know he did so much, or he does so much with the foundation, with the toy drive that's now raised over $3 million. And so my first thought was this was a national broadcast last night where people were tuning in to watch one of the bigger games of the regular season in a while, and where his mom was in the stands watching her son live out his dream in a huge moment. A player that was actually kind of pushed into a bigger role this year.
Yeah.
And has been doing very well. Has played in 14 games for them, started in 14 games for the Bills. And then to see that happen on national TV and like everyone's watching your son as he collapses, I can't even imagine as a mother what's going through her mind. And I think that was where I first went, was just the sympathy I felt for his mom, his family, and then his teammates who are with him each and every day, who are probably with him more than their families.
That's how it is.
Right, Ramon?
Yeah, that's how it is.
At 12:48 this morning, the Buffalo Bills sent out the following statement. Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest following a hit in our game versus the Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field. Wow. And he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. That was the most recent update 6 hours ago from the Buffalo Bills. Kayla mentioned fans continuing to support Damar Hamlin's toy drive. And this is unbelievable. He started a toy drive 2 years ago while still playing at Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ramona, this is a guy that said he wanted to stay home and play at Pittsburgh because he had a 2-year-old brother in his family that he wanted to be around and be a role model for. Said he had a goal of raising $2,500. The GoFundMe link began circulating last night. It has since raised more than $3.2 million.
Yeah.
I clicked on this thing when it was $30,000.
Yeah.
as soon as it got tweeted out in the aftermath of his injury and his hospitalization, it reminds you the good in people and the good in social media and the good in the National Football League. And one of the more poignant images to me, guys, was Josh Allen and Joe Burrow arm in arm.
Yep.
Next to each other watching all of this unfold. And it was actually in that moment where my first thought was, there's no way that these guys are going to go back to their enemy lines and continue to do battle on this field tonight.
Nope.
No way.
You see guys across different sidelines of different teams embracing and uplifting one another. You can't go from uplifting one another in that moment and in that context to once again trying to hit each other and in battle in a pivotal game that really, in the grand scheme of life, could not be more insignificant.
Yeah.
No.
After what you had just watched happen on that field.
Real quick pro tip too, is this weather in the city is a little iffy. From Nikel Smith on Twitter, she said, avoid I-40 at Fessler Lane. The road is flooded and vehicles are struggling to get through.
Yep.
So
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll continue to update you as well on the tornado watches, on the status of the severe weather in the area, because that is our responsibility to you if you are out driving this morning. So stay up to date here with us. We've got traffic, obviously, beginning of every segment here on the show, where you'll know what your commute looks like and how that may be impacted. But before we go to break here, guys, and we'll get more reaction on the phone lines this morning as well, at 615-737-1045. The status of what we're going to do and the kind of the stance of this show is we're going to continue to give you the official updates as it comes from the NFL, from the Buffalo Bills, from the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. There are a lot of experts. There are marketing representatives of the family. There are unconfirmed reports from doctors out of sensitivity to the family and out of the abundance of caution to Damar Hamlin and his status. I'm only going to stick to the official news as we know it from the NFL and from the Buffalo Bills. I understand there are a lot of experts out there that are going to provide their analysis out of sensitivity and respect for the family. We're going to give you the official news. This ain't about being first. This is not about giving you information that you may not have heard elsewhere just so you stay and keep watching or listening to us. That's all out the window today, guys.
it is.
Yep. We give you the official news as it comes. And look, we're going to probably talk some Titans as the show continues and how this impacts the rest of the NFL. But the priority today is Damar Hamlin, a 24-year-old whose life is being battled for in Cincinnati. So, again, for the Bills, Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest following a hit in the game against the Cincinnati Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field, and he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. We'll get to more of your phone calls coming up next. Continue to react to this story and the wonderful knowledge and expertise of Ramon Foster of Kayla Anderson this morning as we react to this news in Cincinnati. Ramon, Kayla, and Wills, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Much more coming up next on 104.5 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster for Craftsman on the Hill. One of the best bars around the Nashville area is located at 3424 Lebanon Pike in Hermitage, Tennessee. Listen to me. They got one of the best menus around that take bar food to an all-new level, featuring the delicious smoked wings. They have other things too, with burgers, quesadillas, chicken sandwiches, tenders, and several homemade sauces. They even have a really good white sauce if you hadn't had that yet. The smoked brisket chili that's served every single day. Fridays, you can get your catfish plate, head to the house, and just kick your feet up a little bit because dinner's already done. They have a night for you every single night. Last night was trivia night. They have poker tournaments throughout the week. That's the perfect place to support your favorite college team throughout bowl season or the two-tone blue on this Saturday coming up. Have plenty of TVs to watch your favorite sports and sports team. Best thing is, it's locally owned and operated with new management. Monday through Sunday, Craftsman on the Hill, 3424 Lebanon Pike in Hermitage.
Joe, we just got it. The league is going to officially suspend play for this evening, and they will get with the teams and they will try to find a date or whatever their next move is. But for this evening, the game is officially suspended. The game will not be played this evening, and hopefully before we leave the air tonight, they will try to provide an update on the player.
It's Remote Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone. With Remote Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. We continue to react and reflect on the news yesterday. The collapse and the cardiac arrest last night for 24-year-old Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin in Monday Night Football between the Bengals and the Bills. The NFL saying last night that there is nothing under consideration at this point for postponing this game. Jeff Miller, the NFL Executive Vice President of Communications, Public Affairs, and Policy, saying there's nothing in consideration right now. Our concern is for the player and his well-being. At the appropriate time, I'm sure that we'll have a conversation around the next steps regarding the game. 615-737-1045 is our number. We go this morning to Mike in Clarksville on the phone lines. First up, good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, RKW. How y'all doing today?
Good.
All right.
Good morning, my brother. Stay safe driving.
Man, yes, sir. I just made it to work, man. I drove like a snail this morning, so I'm trying to make it home.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, watching that game yesterday, I was watching it with my mom, and it touched home for us because my sister, January 18th of last year, passed from COVID pneumonia, and she passed away in my mom's arms. And so when she seen that, she instantly thought, like, where's his mom?
Wow.
Yep.
You know, is his mom in the stands? Because she, in her head, is watching this through his mom's eyes.
Yep.
Like, dang, like my son just collapsed. What is going on? And one thing that she brought up was my nephew, 6'2", 250, linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, he's not playing football anymore. Because at this point, it's not even worth it. The money's not worth it. None of that is worth putting your child in a casket due to a football hit or whatever the case may be. And, you know, I commend the medical staff and everything. But for me, it was just like, okay, it's taking y'all this long to cancel the game. This man was down for 10 minutes receiving CPR. In the broadcast, go kick it to ESPN and be done with it. You know, you have to protect these guys. And then, you know, thinking about Tua, this is what, concussion number 3?
Yeah.
I believe that the NFL Players Association to come together with the NFL owners, Roger Goodell, and say, look, here's the new rule. You get 2 concussions in one season, you're done. We're pulling you. No matter, we don't care about the team. We don't care about the fans right now. We care about you. I think that they need to put limitations on injuries and all of that. I mean, even with the Titans, like, look at the Titans. You had 90 guys last year. We're up to, 70 this year that has been injured. There's a problem going on, and it's not worth money or anything, and it takes last night for everybody to realize, like, these guys are human beings, and it's just sad.
Yep. I agree with that.
Thank you for the call, Mike. Appreciate it.
I think last night issued an open challenge to a lot of sports rules and just how you operate moving forward, to me. Mm-hmm. Again, from basketball, football, lacrosse, baseball, there has to be a level of close proximity of, like, medical help. And it may be like, well, Ramon, we don't have the funds for that type of stuff. You know how we can't go if there's 8 county schools that's playing 8 games in one night, we can't have them everywhere. There has to be a centrally located person somewhere because this is it's fragile. And as he said in his call a second ago, you know, the youth that play this, NFL probably takes a hit a little bit when it comes down to the consideration of it. But I'll say this, too, on the other side, just playing DA for a second, devil's advocate, a lot of people just love the game. Even the kids, they grow in love with it. A lot of people in these situations don't have either the resources or mental capacity to be in a position to where they are our own platforms where they can go get Fortune 500 jobs. Like, this is their escape. It's either sports or nothing else. And that's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, don't matter. The sports become a vehicle for you. I'm not going to act like that's not the case when it comes down to the game. That is a component of it. But the structure of how it's played out on week-to-week, game-to-game, health-wise, I think it puts everybody on notice now. The coaches that want to do the old-school approach to it, just tough, and this puts you back right here.
Yeah, it really does. And I wanted to also mention, us as fans of the NFL, of our certain teams, and Ramon, I know that Cincinnati has not been the friendliest place, and it's not your favorite place. You played against them year after year. But I will say last night with what happened and the minute that this fan base and the Bills fans that were there found out the seriousness of this, and it didn't take long for them to figure that out. People were thinking of it as no longer a game anymore.
No.
They were thinking of it, is this young man okay? And even seeing some of those Cincinnati Bengals fans and then obviously some Buffalo Bills fans go to that hospital and feel like, this is more than a game. We're going to go out here. We're going to pray for this young man and his family.
Yep.
I thought that was a good moment for sports and fans in sports, because right now it's very divided in everything that we do.
Everything.
Right?
Yep.
And in sports, especially when we're just trying sometimes to just have fun and root for our teams, you see fights, you see this, you see that, you see poor sportsmanship. But last night, them being there for that young man outside the hospital, I thought that was a beautiful moment for just the game outside of the players.
It was. And I say this, too, on the business side of it. NFL need to make this as seamless as possible, whether people want refunds, whether they just say, you know what, if you're at the game, we're refunding you, or, it's people that flew in for this type of stuff. It is that aspect of it, too. NFL needs no bad press behind this. Whatever has to be done moving forward, you are a billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
You can afford this one right now.
And I'll say this, too. The sports books are in the same boat.
See, yeah.
At the very least, you refund everything that was wagered on this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. You run with this one. Nah, you don't need any behind this one.
Man, the reflection that I have and just the place where my mind first goes, and many of you know Dawson Knox, a member of this community, a guy that grew up here in Nashville. His family is, very close. To many of you listening to us right now in the Brentwood community and beyond in Middle Tennessee. And, guys, all I could think about was watching Dawson, a kid from Brentwood, standing locked arms with medical staff, with other players, blocking the path to Damar Hamlin. That way he could have privacy.
Yes.
And thinking about what that guy has been through this year, and Dawson tragically losing his brother Luke earlier this year.
I thought of the same thing.
Dawson would never want this to be made about him.
No.
And, that
but it's reality.
That's the last thing anyone wants. And Ryan Clark was so eloquent. We're going to play the audio of what he had to say.
He was unbelievable.
Coming up here in a minute. And he even made the same comment, said, look, I don't want anybody to take this as me making this about me. And so please hear that from me as well. And, this is not to make any of this about us or about people we know. And Dawson would say the same thing. But, to localize this a little bit and make it kind of hit close to home, the leadership on that team, we talked about it from Sean McDermott. For Josh Allen, who quickly was speaking with Bengals players who were enemies, who were, in battle with him in a hostile environment, I might add. Just a couple of minutes earlier, you can't say enough about the leadership the Buffalo Bills players and coaching staff displayed last night. And I think of Dawson because that's just a guy that I grew up with that I know really well. Standing arm in arm and being a leader and being, at that point, more than a football player, but from his perspective and knowing him, a man of God that is reflecting, that is praying, that is trying to be the hands and feet of God in that moment. So if you're a praying person, continue to pray. This is something that hits home for all of us. All of us have seen tragedy in our lives and can understand and can empathize with the emotions being felt on the field for the brothers, for the teammates, for the close friends of the guys that share a locker room with Damar Hamlin every day. But it certainly puts games in perspective and puts playoff races and division titles in perspective, all of that elementary this morning as we continue to react and reflect on this event and on how it was handled in that moment. Let's go back to the phones at 615-737-1045. Dave is in Old Hickory up next, sharing his thoughts this morning. Hey, Dave.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Hey, very well said, Will. Very well said. I really appreciate that. I think, switching gears real quickly, I think the NFL is, as Ramon just mentioned, going to take a little bit of a hit off of this, and as he did, to play devil's advocate a little bit. I think that they were timely last night in their response. I know that it seemed like it took forever. I think there were 10 minutes or 15 minutes after a unprecedented situation that a lot of people just weren't quite grasping the severity of it, and when that became apparent, there were a lot of moving parts that had to be dialed in to make the announcement. Rather, I think the decision had been made, but the announcement, getting that out to everyone that was involved. A pushback a little bit on what a previous caller described. If you follow any type of sport, Ramon, you kind of went through it: baseball, soccer, lacrosse. Even if you go to the running sports, at every marathon, every year, there's someone that suffers cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
It's very, very unfortunate, but it happens in all sports. So when you talk about, coming down on the NFL and contact sports, UFC, you have boxing, you have a lot of sports with a lot of players. I think the NFL gets a hit because it is at the top in the money that's involved. I'm not here to defend the NFL, not here to defend Roger Goodell at all, but I think there's also a power play struggle there because of the position of the NFL. I mean, it dominates. I mean, it's the only sport that's talked about on sports talk radio now. Mm-hmm. And you have these other things that happen as well. And cardiac arrest is something that, I mean, we're talking about football, but we need to wait and really hear. I think the NFL is going to have to be very careful on how they parse it, but they're going to have to explain what exactly happened here, because if we're just going to talk about the NFL and his tackle that he made, then we may as well hang the game up, because that happens on every single play. And there will be people questioning it no matter when they pick the ball up again, when they snap the next ball, because this is so unprecedented in the game of football, but it is not unprecedented in sport. I just think we should keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the call.
Definitely.
He's not
perspective.
wrong.
He's not wrong. No.
Yeah, certainly. 615-737-1045, our number. Cousin Grasshopper in Nashville up next with us this morning. What's going on, Grasshopper?
What's up, Grasshopper?
What's going on? Normally I'm here quick-witted with all types of jokes, but like right now, my mind and my heart is with the player who is right now fighting for his life. Yesterday kind of did something to me. As first and foremost a football coach, and as well as somebody who, I owe a debt of gratitude to football, because when there was a point in time in my life to where I wasn't an athlete no more, because I wasn't going to college, I had to work, and for my whole life I've been training just to live a dream. Football was there for me in the means of semi-pro football. No, it's not the same thing as the NFL, but it kept me out of a lot of trouble. I got the chance to travel places and meet some fantastic people. But when last night happened, being a coach and being somebody who, loved football for the very first time, when I read a post that said my son will never play football again, I had no response to that. As a coach, it kept me up all night, because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, because when I first looked at it, and I even inboxed Rome, I'm thinking, how could it been, how in a technique type of matter could it been different? Should he lowered his shoulder? But no, he was probably afraid to be targeted, getting a targeted call. And I'm going through all the coaching aspects in my mind, and there was nothing. And I consider myself, I'm a motivational coach, and I'm very strict on fundamentals. and I didn't have nothing. And then I sit and I look at my 6'5", 170-pound son who didn't play football this year, but he's getting the itch. And for the very first time in my life, I was like, not my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Not my baby. And, you know, it just kept me up. It kept me up. And normally I'm asleep around this time. But this morning when I woke up and took my wife to work, I got a text message from one of my kids. And the text message read, "Are we still going to work out, Coach?"
Wow.
And for the very first time, I didn't respond. You know, if you want this money, you'll work out. That's my mantra. If you want the money, you better work. It's about the work.
Yeah.
But for the first time, I couldn't respond immediately.
Yeah.
So, again, prayers to Hamlin. You know, and you know, that's all I got.
Thank you, Grasshopper. Appreciate the call and appreciate the honest reflection there.
Yeah.
On, I think, a conversation a lot of parents and a lot of coaches are having this morning in reflection from Damar Hamlin's collapse in Cincinnati last night. We'll continue the conversation coming up next. We want to play Ryan Clark's full comments last night on ESPN with Scott Van Pelt. And I want to tip my cap to the broadcast professionals who had to be just that in the moment, pros in dealing with this. Coming up next, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Change is coming, and you need to be prepared for it. Hey, it's Ramon Foster. Did you know that new regulations are coming soon that could increase the price of replacing your older HVAC system by over 20%? That's why you need to act now and get that older system replaced by my friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. They offer 18 months with no payments, meaning you can lock in today's price and not have to pay until spring of 2024. Or you can get up to $1,500 off a new HVAC system. Now, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is always backed by 10-year parts and labor warranties on York products. That's because Spring Hill Heating and Cooling is also a York certified comfort expert company. And if you need repair work, they offer free service calls with their repairs, plus low monthly payments on those repairs. They are the heating and cooling company that can take care of all of your HVAC needs. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, available anytime at springhillac.com.
Tuesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors on 104.5 The Zone. In December of 2020, the Chasing M's Foundation, made by Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, was established to help Hamlin in his journey to the NFL. And he wrote on a GoFundMe page 2 years ago, "I will never forget where I come from, and I am committed to using my platform to positively impact the community that raised me." Well, fast forward a couple years, he's had 3 editions of his Chasing M's Foundation community toy drive. This started in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh, where he stayed home to play for the Panthers in college football. There was a goal of $2,500 on that GoFundMe. It was tweeted out last night after he was hospitalized after cardiac arrest in Cincinnati. And $3.4 million have been raised for his foundation and his toy drive. Life-changing money.
Wow.
And a life-changing event for him that can be used in a positive way for many in that community last night in Cincinnati.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, all you want right now for him is stable, up. Moving around. Whatever happens in his career, that doesn't matter. Honestly, therapy for his teammates and how they got to deal with this, that matters too. Mm-hmm. I'm in a conversation with one of my buddies that played in the league. We're talking about, like, how did I feel about the Shazier situation? Like, it was different. I worry about my kids playing the game. That's why I'm not eager for them to play. I ain't. Anybody asks me, you gonna let them play? Man, why? Why you want me to sit my get out there when you think you know more than me? I'm not being cocky with it, but you don't know more than me about this, specifically with my youngest at the position he'll play. So no, don't ask me about that. It'll be time when that time is there. And I'm not blaming the game. I don't know what Hamlin's health issues were, however you went about them. Everybody has something, and that's why I'm always an advocate of go get checked out. Get your blood drawn, especially fellas. We don't do that enough. You don't know what your genetics, your hereditary is like. Go figure it out because it's crucial. There was another player that recently passed, Uche Nwoari from the Jaguars. Yeah. It was abruptly, 38 years old with a heart attack. Like, hey, it's okay to go to the doctor. If you work a job and you have insurance, use it up. Mm-hmm. You're paying it out of your check weekly or monthly anyway. Take advantage of those things, man. But it's a mental reset. That's a hard place to be as a player, coach, staff, organization. And I just want to see a tweet or a release of a statement to say, hey, he's up, normal, and stable.
Yeah, this is the hardest part of anything like this, whether it be somebody that you're waiting on news from that's close to you, to someone like this that we're all pulling for.
Mm-hmm.
Because many people watched it happen live last night, and that does not happen often. And I wanted to kind of get your perspective on the players' mental health part of this, because last night you had mentioned, Will, building that wall so that there was a little privacy for him, which is so important, for them to do that. But then also them seeing that, absolutely everything that was going on in front of them. And then knowing, you don't know what's happening.
Right.
There hasn't been many updates. And in this time right now, just waiting, Ramon, as a player, your brother, not knowing, the mental health aspect is big.
It is.
Because you think of these guys, they're not just players.
No.
They're human beings first and foremost. And this is a brother.
And I say this all the time. Guys are goofballs. They just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
They are. That's why
I talk about the locker room all the time, right? And how much fun they have in it.
And that's what it is. Guys are normal beings that are just so happen to be athletic or athletic enough to be able to go play at that level. But you want to talk about emotions. You want to talk about the life struggles that guys have. It's a real thing. Mm-hmm. And it's not just products. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it gets kind of skewed in how you view your favorite team and how they play and who gives up a bad play. But they're human beings at the end of it all, to your point, though, Kayla. So, digesting this and moving forward is probably going to take a few days. I don't think the NFL has a window to play this game. Yeah. I don't. I'm of the mindset. You go back to what was it, Friday Night Lights, or Remember the Titans? You do a friggin' corn flip. Who's gonna be upset about that?
Well, I think you'd probably see a tie before you saw that.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I think you're looking at a very realistic possibility of this game is a tie.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with that.
And for the players who played with Damar Hamlin at Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are many other teammates of this young man elsewhere in the NFL who are going to be equally impacted with his collapse and with his injury.
That's the thing. He's played football for a majority of his life. And I saw Pitt tweet out last night, coach tweet out last night. I mean, to know, like, you're watching a guy that you coached all through college and seeing his dreams come true, seeing him become a starter in the league, playing in one of the biggest games of the regular season. And that all goes out the window when you see something like this happen. And just knowing, like, how these coaches have this special bond with their players, especially at the college level, right, Ramon?
You see them every day.
And the teammates at the college level. That's a different type of level of play and how you become close. We've seen it with Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton and just that brotherhood.
Yep.
It goes so beyond just the current people that surround you.
It does. Like you said, I think you mentioned this earlier. You're around that locker room, those players, more times than you are around your family.
And you can attest to that, Ramon.
Yeah.
You spent
Right.
that amount of time in the league.
You become brothers, and the coaches become father figures, to your point. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that are wondering this morning about this young player.
Coming up next, I want to give a tip of the cap to the broadcast professionals who, like we mentioned in our previous segment, were put in an unprecedented and impossible situation. The studio crew, Booger McFarland, Susie Colbert, Adam Schefter, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, Scott Van Pelt, and Ryan Clark, namely, the reporters as well. I want to give them the credit that they deserve for being put in an impossible situation and telling this story the best way they knew how. In real time. And we want to play you coming up next the audio of Ryan Clark's perspective of someone else whose life was hanging in the balance at one point in his career. As a longtime defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a teammate of Ramon Foster's, sharing his perspective and the sobering reality of how quickly life hits you in these moments when it can all of a sudden be taken away from you at the snap of a finger. Before we do that, though, I want to update you again on the latest weather updates around Middle Tennessee because there are storms in the area. There are storms that are on the way, and there are flood advisories now as well here this morning that were issued minutes ago in Davidson, Rutherford, Williamson, and Wilson counties specifically. That weather alert coming this morning. So please be safe, be careful. With large amounts of water around roadways in Middle Tennessee. There is a tornado watch that has been issued to include the following areas until 11 a.m. Central Time this morning. That's Davidson, Sumner, and Williamson County. And then as well elsewhere in Middle Tennessee, you have the following counties. You've got Cheatham, Dixon, and Hickman counties, Houston, Humphreys, Lewis, Montgomery, Perry, Robertson, Stewart, and Wayne County. So keep it locked in here as well for the latest updates from the National Weather Service. We'll continue to keep you updated if you are out and about this morning where severe weather is and how quickly that is coming here. And, of course, we always give a shout-out to our friends at Nashville Severe Weather on Twitter, at NashSevereWX. That is the authority on Twitter in real time as quickly as you can get updates if you're not near a television or radio and you've got to go to work or be somewhere else. Give them a follow on Twitter, and they will keep you updated on the latest as it comes official this morning. 615-737-1045. Ben Arthur's scheduled to join us this morning at 8:20. We'll talk some football, and we'll continue to react on Damar Hamlin's injury last night in Cincinnati. Next, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 1045 The Zone.
It is 8:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Jonathan Schaefer. A scary scene last night during Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest after collapsing on the field. Hamlin's heartbeat was restored, and he was transported to a nearby hospital where he is currently in critical condition. CPR was administered to Hamlin, and he received oxygen. He collapsed following his tackle of Cincinnati's T. Higgins midway through the first quarter. The league postponed the game 90 minutes after kickoff. Titans officially named Josh Dobbs their starting quarterback for Saturday's AFC South title game at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They also placed safety Andrew Adams on injured reserve. To college football yesterday, 4 bowl games. Penn State defeated Utah 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. Tulane rallied late to defeat USC 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl. LSU, no problem with Purdue, 63-7 win in the Citrus Bowl. And in the first game after the passing of head coach Mike Leach, Mississippi State defeated Illinois 19-10 in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Men's college basketball today, Mississippi State at number 8, Tennessee. We will join that game in progress following MAC Talk at 7 o'clock this evening. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Tuesday morning on a boat, Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here on 104.5 The Zone. More reaction and reflection to Damar Hamlin's injury and cardiac arrest last night in Cincinnati as Bills and Bengals is delayed and postponed until further notice. No news, and I don't think we're going to get any anytime soon on what is next for Bills and Bengals and the next steps in a pivotal matchup between two of the top seeds of the AFC last night that quickly goes on the back burner in Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. Remote Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling with you. Jonathan Schaefer is our producer, and Ben Arthur of Fox Sports joins us coming up in 15 minutes. Ron Slay in Hour 4, his reflection and reaction to what we saw in Cincinnati last night. And we will talk some Titans and a little bit of football coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But guys, not much more that we can discuss other than the story of the day that becomes a national news story. Damar Hamlin, who is in critical condition early this morning after the Bills say his heart stopped following a tackle during Monday Night Football, which was indefinitely postponed.
Yeah, imagine that. Like heart stop. Like, this is a heart-stopping game. Like, no, that wasn't that. This is a real-life person that has to be revived on the field. I was happy to hear he had a heartbeat. From my understanding, that he's still under as far as maybe testing. I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to speculate or lead anybody down that path or avenue of discussing anything medical. But I was just glad to kind of hear that a little bit. But he's in a good spot. The NFL has to employ all people, reach out to cardiologists, experts, and just everybody that's around this type of situation to try to figure out what's what. So, again, prayers to him and to his family, to his teammates, coaches, and everybody involved in it. I think everybody got kind of blown back a little bit last night because of it.
Yeah, I think the outpour of thoughts of if you're sending your prayers of whatever it is around the country, around the world today is it warms my heart a little to see us come together.
Yeah.
Like this in such a world that I feel like we're always trying to tear each other down.
Yeah. Yeah.
No doubt about it. And competition means nothing this morning. And competition for us as people in media, right? I mean, there's nothing we're going to say to try to get you to hang on and, give you the latest news, or it's not worth it to us continuing to read the experts that are unconfirmed out there and try to get you, the latest that is unofficial news, right, from his marketing representatives and his agent who asked just for privacy for his family at this time. What we can give you is the official word, though, from the Buffalo Bills overnight and the statement that was released. It reads like this. Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest following a hit in our game versus the Bengals. His heartbeat was restored on the field, and he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. I want to give a tip of the cap to the ESPN broadcasters and to the broadcast professionals last night, starting with Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, and Lisa Salters. I thought Lisa Salters did a great job balancing the duties and responsibilities of reporting what she knew, but Kayla also waiting until there was enough confirmed information and something tangible that she could say, because you can't speculate in that moment.
No.
But you do have a duty to stay live. And I saw a lot of people saying, well, why not just show a 30 for 30? Why not just go to a recorded episode of NFL Live? I thought ESPN had the responsibility to stay live in order to give the most up-to-the-minute updates. And I think Lisa Salters was on the front lines of that, and Susie Colbert as well, and moderating the discussion with Booger McFarland and with Adam Schefter. An impossible job for both of those ladies who I thought were tremendous.
Yeah, I did too. And, the experience Lisa Salters has, obviously Susie Colbert.
Yeah.
She spent her whole life covering this game. But I think that it's hard sometimes to be an outsider and be judging how somebody is covering something like this, because while we are journalists first and foremost, we are human beings too, but we also know we have a duty, and that's to inform the public. And in situations like that, the one thing that you don't want to do is give false information. And so you have to know that you cannot assume anything. You have to wait until you get facts. And that's really hard to do in a situation like this, where it's all coming into fruition live, like live time. And so for Lisa to do what she was able to do last night, and I think specifically once they were able to get into the tunnel, and she kind of described how some of the Bills players were coming, or the Bengals players were coming over the Bills, locker room, and just describing the scene, trying to do anything at that moment as a sideline reporter, because she's down where everything is happening. I too, Will, thought she did a good job. And I'm sure she looks back at it right now, and the last thing she's worried about is, did I say it? She's worried about this young man as well. But I think, she's a veteran, and she did a good job last night of what she could do.
And we mentioned this at the beginning of the show this morning, that there likely are things that ESPN would change and do differently as they look back on this a day later.
Yeah.
In the morning after it. And I think the NFL, the speed with which they made this announcement, if you're trying to be critical, if you're trying to analyze this, I do think they could have canceled the game a lot quicker. But out of sensitivity, out of just reflection, and out of respect for Damar Hamlin, that's not a conversation I think we're going to have today. There are things that probably could have been done differently, could have been said sooner or done better in the moment. This was an impossible and unprecedented situation. So we're going to use that energy that we would to critique and criticize, and it's our jobs, right? I mean, we're not cheerleaders on this show or on this station or in the roles that we're in, right? It's our job to analyze the facets of sports and football on and off the field and the way things are covered. That falls under that umbrella. But today, I don't want to do that. I want to, out of respect for Damar Hamlin, to continue to uplift, to be positive, and to lift up a young man that is battling this morning in critical condition. I wanted to play the audio before we go to break and get to Ben Arthur on the other side of Ryan Clark last night, Ramon Foster's old teammate for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was eloquent, he was measured, and he didn't want to make things about him. He didn't want to say, hey, Damar Hamlin's situation is about Ryan Clark. That's not at all what he did. And I think color commentators sometimes, they walk that line, right, of you want to give your perspective, but you don't want to make it about you. Ryan Clark gave his perspective. He was measured in his response, and he was honest last night with Scott Van Pelt.
I think the first thing, this is about Damar Hamlin. Mm-hmm. And it's about a young man at 24 years old that was living his dream, that a few hours ago was getting ready to play the biggest game of his NFL career, and there's probably nowhere else in the world he wanted to be. And now he fights for his life. And when Damar Hamlin falls to the turf, and when you see the medical staff rush to the field and both teams are on the field, you realize this isn't normal. You realize this isn't just football. And so many times in this game, and in our job as well, we use the cliches, I'm ready to die for this. I'm willing to give my life for this. It's time to go to war. And I think sometimes we use those things so much, we forget that part of living this dream is putting your life at risk. And tonight, we got to see a side of football that is extremely ugly, a side of football that no one ever wants to see or never wants to admit exists. When you see both teams on the field crying in that way, your first thought is Damar Hamlin. Yep. The second thought is his family. And this isn't about a football player, right? This is about a human. This is about a brother. This is about a son. This is about a friend. This is about someone who is loved by so many that you have to watch go through this. I dealt with this before, and I watched my teammates for days come to my hospital bed and just cry. I had them call me and tell me that they didn't think I was going to make it, and now this team has to deal with that, and they have no answers. Mm-hmm. And so the next time I think that we get upset at our favorite fantasy player, or we're upset that the guy on our team doesn't make the play, and we're saying he's worthless, and we're saying you get to make all this money, we should remember that these men are putting their lives on the line to live their dream. And tonight, Damar Hamlin's dream became a nightmare for not only himself, but his family and his entire team.
Spectacular from Ryan Clark of ESPN last night. And it's refreshing to hear the honesty, to hear those poignant comments from Ryan. Scott Van Pelt did a terrific job moderating this discussion, bringing in reporters live from the hospital in Cincinnati, bringing in Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who I thought also did a tremendous job. And people have their opinions on Joe Buck. Again, the experience to be ready for an unprecedented situation like that was so needed in that exact moment. I thought Joe, Troy, Scott, and Ryan were terrific. And Booger McFarland as well. Quickly, though, before we go to break, Ramon, for those who are unfamiliar with Ryan's situation and his medical condition where he was in danger in his own playing career, just give the background quickly to what Ryan dealt with for those that aren't familiar.
Because of his condition, I think he's sickle cell, he said that, and he had playing at high elevation for him became an issue. Played the game, got on the plane, leaving. They had to have an emergency landing to take him to the hospital. But he ended up losing his gallbladder and spleen and could never play in Denver again. If he did, there was a chance that he could have died. And he kind of course, past the fact, joke a little bit around about why he played the game so hard. It's like, man, I almost gave my life to this game. And he meant that, and he played it that way. And his passion you heard and how he speak about it right now means a whole lot to him and how guys play this game. So whenever he had his issues with folks, so Stephen A. was one of his most famous ones. That's because his perspective was different. It was life or death. We had to go into games, I think, 3 or 4 times to play without RC because it was literally, you go play, there's a high chance you could die. And imagine playing a football game and the way they whisk us out and get on the team charter to go back home and then having to make an emergency landing. He has to stay in Denver while his teammates go back, and he's rushed into surgery and have organs removed from his body because if they didn't, he'd die. Like, that's how serious this game can be and what guys do to actually entertain. So, yeah, it's a tough tough position. Couldn't have had a better guy speak on this. I text him saying his words was perfect, and they were, and it was necessary to have that conversation.
I thought it was so important, and like we were all saying in our group chat last night, we really couldn't just go to sleep without having some sort of, even perspective from a guy like Ryan Clark who's been through it, and I also know he's a parent of a football player. His son plays at Arizona State. So for him, he's thinking multiple things. So for him to share that, to hit those parents that are worrying right now or that are thinking, oh my gosh, about my son, or, it just, that was so good to have that perspective from him last night for so many different reasons.
Coming up next, Ben Arthur of Fox Sports joins the conversation. His perspective on what took place last night in Cincinnati, the tragic events following Damar Hamlin's collapse and hospitalization, cardiac arrest last night on Monday Night Football between the Bills and the Bengals. We continue to follow this story as it breaks this morning, and we will keep you up to the minute updates with what the Buffalo Bills say as official news breaks. We're also going to talk a little bit of Titans. I know it feels difficult this morning to think about football games, to think about taking next steps in the National Football League. But we'll have both conversations with Ben shortly coming up next here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Tuesday edition of Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Great perspective this morning with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. Jonathan Schaefer, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 as we continue to take your calls as the show continues. But right now, to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline as we check in with our friend Ben Arthur, AFC South reporter for Fox Sports. Good morning, Ben. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Man, we're good, and I want to talk some Titans and talk some AFC South coming up here in a couple minutes, something we really haven't gotten to do this morning because all of our focus has been with the rest of the sports world and the NFL community with Buffalo defensive back Damar Hamlin. I just wanted to start, Ben, with your reaction to the news and what we saw last night of his collapse and his hospitalization.
Yeah, that was a tough situation, guys. I mean, I was watching with my girlfriend, and it's one of those moments where it's really tough, but it's great to see everyone kind of come together and show their support. First of all, thoughts and prayers of course to Damar Hamlin, his family, the Bills organization, that franchise. But yeah, a really tough situation. I was seeing that the Bills said this morning that he's currently sedated and in critical condition. You certainly hope that he can pull through. And I think the reaction we saw, right, from the entire sports world, from obviously we saw Titans players hit social media, other teams. I think that outpouring of love and support, whenever we have opportunities, whenever these kind of situations arise, as unfortunate as they are, I think it's always beautiful to see the outpouring of love and support. And with such a violent game like football, it's the violence part of it is something that we talk about all the time. But I think when something like this happens, right, a situation so scary and frightening, especially for the guys out there on the field putting, their bodies on the line. It's certainly a tough situation, and I think it kind of brings to the forefront the realities of the game of football. And so, again, my thoughts are with Damar and his family, and but then again, too, just it's so wonderful to see the outpouring of love and support for him, and also the toy drive that he his GoFundMe and kind of all the donations that have poured in since last night has kind of been a great thing to see.
I think it's really cool, too. A lot of people were just, it's crazy. I saw somebody tweeted us. It's funny, people are supporting it. I think people are supporting it because his toy drive, because it shows the human aspect of how people care. And I think that's the most important thing that came out of last night. We were discussing what happens with the game. Where are you at, Ben, with what happens to this game moving forward, considering there are Saturday night games this week?
Yeah, it's the NFL has a really tough situation at hand. Obviously, any football, the kind of implications for the playoff race and whatnot for the AFC are obviously secondary in regards to or take second fiddle to Damar Hamlin's health. But I mean, there are a lot of big questions in terms of kind of how you proceed, right? I mean, this is a postponed game. Like, what does this mean for the Bills and the Bengals and their records? And we know kind of how critical those two teams are in terms of shaping the AFC playoff picture. I do not have an answer for you guys on what the NFL should do, and I don't think it's my place to really kind of speculate on that. But it is a really tough situation, particularly this late in the season, and as I said, kind of the playoff implications at stake. And so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how the NFL, decides to move forward here. I mean, obviously a couple years ago, we had the COVID situation and that, there was having to kind of push back games and kind of the whole schedule was out of whack. But this is obviously a unique situation impacting one game because of the health of a player. And so I guess I'm just kind of like everyone else, kind of waiting to see how the NFL is going to respond to this.
Yeah. As far as the Titans go this week, we'll try to lightly transition as best we can.
Yeah.
A lot at stake. New starter at quarterback, figuring out this offensive line and how they're going to protect Dobbs too. Where are you at with the challenge that they face going to Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's obviously going to be a tough task, right? I mean, the Jaguars look like the better team. That they have it all going, but they're in a rhythm. They have tons of momentum. Obviously, they've won 4 games in a row, 5 of their last 6, I believe 6 of their last 8. But you look at the quarterback situation. I mean, Joshua Dobbs just gives them the best chance to win. If you're looking at what Dobbs was able to do in that loss to the Cowboys, able to move the ball, move the offense in a way Malik Willis was unable to in his 3 starts. Obviously, there were times where there some of the bad decisions, right? That they're the near picks. There was the interception he had. There was the fumble he had. If I remember right, it was in plus territory, and so he was clearly getting back in the groove. He had just joined the Titans 8 days ago, and it was his first start in his NFL career in 6 seasons. He hasn't really played meaningful football since he was at Tennessee. And so I think we saw that. But I think just with what we were able to see in that Thursday night game against the Cowboys, he gives them the best chance at the quarterback position. Obviously, if you're the Titans heading into this game, you're going to need to depend a lot on Derrick Henry, hoping that rest has helped him. And then with, a number of defensive guys who were either injured or resting, or however you want to look at it. Hopefully they get those guys back, like Christian Fulton, Danico Autry, Jeff Simmons, because they're going to need them. This is going to come down to how much of the load Derrick Henry and this Titans defense is going to be able to carry to help Dobbs against a really good Jaguars team.
Yeah, Ben, you've kind of seen the culture of this team over the last couple of seasons and through all the injuries, and it's been 2 straight years of this, and for them to have now lost 6 straight. But the locker room felt a little bit different after that loss to the Cowboys. Mike Keith said it best. He felt like a pilot light was kind of lit because there was some momentum they could bring from that game, a spark with Josh Dobbs. Just how do you feel like the mentality of this team will be this week headed into this game where, it's for all the marbles?
Yeah, Kayla. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, the Titans are on a 6-game losing streak, but there were kind of reasons for optimism from that game. I mean, I think momentum is so important. Football is, just one of those sports where it's just so incredibly important. And just for the guys out there on the field offensively to see that they can move the ball in the passing game, like 3 pass plays of 30-plus yards. I mean, for a pass game that is kind of had its ups and downs all season, I think being able to put that on the field right before kind of this do or die division title game, I think was really important. And then for the Titans defense, with so many guys out, for them to compete the way they did against a really explosive Cowboys offense, and for them to really keep them in check for a large portion of the game. And then obviously Kevin Byard having 2 interceptions. A lot of people expected that game to kind of be a blowout, and the Titans were kind of able to hold their own for a large part of that game. And obviously you don't really, especially from the team perspective, you don't really look at moral victories. I think the wins and the losses are ultimately what's most important. But when you look at all the struggles this Titans team has had, I think you have to cling on to the positives and kind of carry that with you into Week 18. And between Josh Dobbs and the passing game, and we saw Traylon Burks really kind of have a great game. I think maybe his best game since he got the concussion in that Eagles game, to see him get going again, for a lot of those defensive backups to play really well against the Cowboys. I think all those things you have to kind of carry with you, and then you think about the boost that they're going to get, or they're expected to get, with a number of those guys who were injured or resting or whatever, getting them back. I think those are kind of some reasons for optimism as you kind of head into this do or die game.
And the AFC South, you are now covering not just the Titans. So you've been down to Jacksonville. I would probably assume, with what's happening and with what's on the line for the Jags too, or for the Jag season too, that atmosphere is probably going to be different from what we've seen in years past, Ben.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know the Jaguars are amped up. I mean, they're expecting a massive crowd, and, for obvious reasons, they've, kind of been encouraging people to really get loud and rowdy and kind of noisy for when they show up at TIAA Bank Field. But yeah, this is a Jaguars team that's certainly going to feed off of that crowd, and this is a team, as I was kind of saying earlier. I mean, they already have a tremendous amount of momentum. I mean, there aren't a lot of things this team isn't doing well right now. Trevor Lawrence has been playing like a top 3, top 5 quarterback since week 9. He has the weapons around him. We saw what Evan Ingram did to the Titans in that first matchup,
right?
With 160 receiving yards. I mean, he's broken the franchise record for a tight end for single season receiving yards for Jacksonville. Christian Kirk's a 1,000-yard receiver. Their pass protection has been great, although they won't have left tackle Cam Robinson. I mean, that group up front has been able to give Trevor Lawrence the time he's needed to get through his progressions. And then this is a defense that gets tons of takeaways. If you remember in that game against the Titans in Nashville, they had, I think, they forced 4 turnovers in that game, and that's something they feed off of. So this is going to be a really, really tough task for the Titans for obvious reasons, and this is a team that has all the momentum, that's going to be playing in front of their home crowd. So I guess we'll kind of see what shakes in this game, but on paper, this is certainly a daunting task for the Titans.
Ben Arthur of Fox Sports has been our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Ben, I know it's a crazy day, a lot of news for all of us to cover. We really appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes to kind of hit a tough subject, talk the game this weekend. We really appreciate it.
No problem, guys. Thank you guys for having me, as
Thanks,
always.
Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Absolutely. There's Ben Arthur with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline as we continue to talk Titans this morning again and take a look at how this issue from last night affects this game this weekend as well, and affects the mentality of everybody throughout the National Football League. More on that coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, I wanted to give you the latest as weather enters the area here in Middle Tennessee, and kind of wrap up with Ben pretty quickly there, because there is news about the weather coming into the area. Henry, Stewart, Houston, and Montgomery counties have been removed from the tornado watch that is in effect until 11 a.m. here locally in Middle Tennessee. This from the National Weather Service just about 15 minutes ago. So in Middle Tennessee, the following counties, you are in a tornado watch that is valid until 11 a.m. Central Time this morning. That's Cheatham County, Davidson County, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Lewis, Perry, Robertson, Sumner, Wayne, and Williamson counties. Continued updates and news, pretty newsy morning this morning on the show as we continue to do our due diligence with that and help you out if you were on the roads this morning from the latest updates from the National Weather Service. 615-737-1045, our number. More coming up as we hit the headlines from Cincinnati last night. And look at the local impact of this issue and the way it affects the mentality in the Titans locker room today. Because as we've discussed throughout the morning, this is a problem for the Buffalo Bills that is not just going to be felt and impacted in that locker room in Buffalo and in Cincinnati, but all across the NFL. We continue the conversation next. Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
You don't have to go through yet another year with that knee pain or back pain. People with chronic joint pain are getting real lasting relief from QC Kinetics. Has Ramon Foster, and QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. Their unique protocols use healing agents from your own body to target aching joints, repairing and restoring damaged joint tissue so you can move again with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. If you got shoulder pain, excruciating hip pain, if you have any arthritis pain or lingering pain from an injury, don't let them operate on you or give you more steroids, and say no to the pain pills. QC Kinetics, call QC Kinetics and see if their life-changing, all-natural treatments can get you living your best life in the new year. I'm telling you, people are raving about these treatments. This is the future of joint pain management, and appointments are available as soon as this next week. Make 2023 the year you say goodbye to joint pain. QC Kinetics in Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro, and you can call them at 615-249-4024. Again, the number is 615-249-4024.
New update from Diana Rossini of ESPN this morning on the aftermath of Damar Hamlin's injury in Cincinnati last night on Monday Night Football. Simone, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors right here on 104.5 The Zone. Diana Rossini, ESPN.com reporter, tweeting out minutes ago saying, we're all struggling today and hopefully talking it out with the right support after a few conversations with players and coaches in the NFL who are expected to be back at work today or tomorrow preparing for games. My overall sense is nobody really knows what to do next. Mm-hmm. She adds in a follow-up tweet, this is so delicate and emotional for entire organizations. Several NFL head coaches have been on the phone with each other sharing ideas on how to lead their teams.
Yeah.
Even coaches who are facing each other in a few days.
Yep.
I'm sure one of those people have to be Mike Tomlin. He's dealt with something specifically like this. And I'm not saying that because it's my former coach. I'm saying that in the sense he's dealt with something very similar. You got to reach out to people that's been through similar situations to kind of understand how to navigate that.
Yes.
And I know him and the Bills head coach are really good friends, too. I think they were on the same staff before, played at the same school, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I would guarantee you he called or either was reached out to on how to navigate something like this because this was tough for us. And I had somebody ask me, who texted, how did you go through this? Like, what did you think? What did your wife think about it? And the difference between this situation and Damar Hamlin's situation was Shazier. Shazier was up. There were surgeries that had to be done. They gave us understanding there were pathways to, some sense of normalcy. Right now, you get nothing from Damar Hamlin. You know what I'm saying? In the sense that there is absolutely no answer, which is what Diana Rossini was just saying. Shazier, after a while, we went to go visit him in the hospital. It's like, I want y'all boys to go play. Mm-hmm. That makes it a little bit easier. He was like, don't let what happened to me affect you chasing your dreams, y'all dreams. Go play ball. Hamlin's not here to kind of say anything like that. And I think that's why if we're all sports fans or just concerned human beings, Kayla, as you alluded to something earlier, like this kind of led us to be appreciative of people. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think all of us are watching at a standstill to just be like, well, where is our answer? And our answer, honestly, it ain't going to be much easier until we get something from him or the doctors that say, all right, we got him stable.
And that's why I think Diana Rossini put out that tweet because, she is connected with a lot of these front offices, with coaches, and a lot of these players are in the same position as many other people, but maybe even more connected because, they play the game, but a lot of these guys may have played with him. Mm-hmm. I know Rashad Weaver was at Pittsburgh.
Yes, he was.
With Hamlin.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that, are connected in a different way than just we are. And for them to go out today to practice, like head coach like Mike Vrabel, you have to address this. There has to be a conversation. You have to make sure that these players are mentally in the right place to even get out on the practice field today.
Yep, 100%.
And so, this is, like you said, with not a lot of knowledge right now of the situation, except for he's in critical condition, it's really tough with the unknown.
And may we all this morning spend time lifting up the people like Lisa Salters, Joe Bunk, Troy Aikman, Susie Colbert, Adam Schefter, Booger McFarland, Ryan Clark, and Scott Van Pelt, who are on the front lines of reporting this and reacting to it, instead of giving oxygen to people that want to be contrarians even in this moment. And I'm not even going to say the names of the people who are, because it's not worth giving them the oxygen that they're looking for of, it's impossible to reschedule. It's not even worth it. Mm-mm. So let's channel the energy that we want to give bashing and being negative to people that are contrarians today. Let's channel that that energy into positivity and uplifting the people who reacted to this the way that is the most admirable.
Yep. And
the way that this situation and this young man deserves. Taylor Twellman of ESPN, a former soccer player who dealt with a concussion that ended his entire career as a soccer player in his time playing for the U.S. men's national team. He tweeted this out a couple of minutes ago and made the comparison. And Jonathan Schaefer can give more kind of clarity to this as well, that in the European Soccer Championships last year, Christian Eriksen, a player for Denmark, had an identical situation collapsing on the field.
Yep.
And all 10 of his teammates who were on the field at the time for Denmark locked arms together and made a circle around him to surround him and give him privacy in a moment where he also had a cardiac event.
Yep.
That's exactly what happened. He was coming up the far boundary and just dribbling the ball up the field, and then he just passed out and just nosedived right into the pitch. And they immediately had medical response come on to the field. And the camera was on his face during that period of time, and his face started turning blue.
Whoa.
And I knew what was going on in that situation. And that's exactly what his teammates did. They made a wall around him for privacy. The situation's eerily similar. This was just last summer. This game that was played in Denmark. They went ahead and finished playing that game.
Yeah.
The difference being Christian Eriksen's condition improved dramatically in a very short period of time. You could debate forever whether they should have finished that game or not. I don't think they should have, but what have you. The point being is that you see AED machines, defibrillators at every stadium. You see elite personnel, emergency response personnel everywhere you go, including in college, because I believe it was a Florida player a few years ago, basketball player, who had that. And last night also struck memories of Hank Gathers going back to 1989 with Loyola Marymount. So right now we're just in a position as media and as fans and as people that are concerned, we just have to wait to hear what has happened, what is next, and then they're able to go back and figure out what caused everything. So right now, as much as you hate it, it's a lot of wait and see. But it was a very similar situation to Christian Eriksen where there wasn't even any contact on that play. Right. And he ended up having a pacemaker installed and has gone on to represent his country and play in the Premier League.
Wow.
There will be time for us to be critics again, and in media, that is so much of our job is being critical, right? And analyzing situations both on and off the field in the world of sports and reacting to it the best way we know how. There will be a time for that. Today's not that day. Today's the day to reflect on what transpired, give you the latest information, and honor Damar Hamlin's life and career the best way that we know how as he remains in critical condition. So when we come back, we're going to continue to do that for 60 more minutes, and we're going to invite Ron Slay into the conversation as well, coming up at 9:20 as he shares his reaction and his thoughts from, I'll say this about Slay, as a guy who is as real and as honest in forthcoming in comments and in situations like this. And Ramon, you know as well as anybody, Slay is a fun guy. He's got a big personality, and he's hilarious. We all love the guy. Slay's pretty wise as well in moments like this.
Yes, indeed.
And Slay deserves the platform to react as you have so eloquently done. And I want to give Ramon the credit, by the way, before we go to break. I know we're late, but I'm thankful to work with both of you, Ramon and Kayla and Schaefer, because I'm young in all of this. I'm learning and I'm experiencing a lot of this for the first time. You guys and y'all's experience and just y'all's poise and patience and the way you've eloquently just vocalized your perspective and Ramon's perspective as a player and Kayla's as a journalist. I just want to give you guys the credit that you deserve for being pros this morning. So, thank you for your service to this community and just being real and honest as we react to this in real time, the only way we know how.
No doubt.
And I think the biggest thing right now is that people, they're here to hear the information, to know if there's updates. And, we're doing our best right now to give you that and give a different perspective with Ramon here, as a player. And it's so important. It goes so far beyond just the game. Yeah. It's about the human being right now in Damar Hamlin.
Coming up next, 60 more minutes of the show this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will as we continue to reflect, to react to the national news story last night on Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. The latest on Damar Hamlin's status, the statement for the Buffalo Bills overnight. We'll do all that coming up on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
9:02, good morning. I'm Jonathan Schaefer from the Superbook.com sports desk. A scary scene last night during Monday Night Football in Cincinnati. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest after collapsing on the field. Hamlin's heartbeat was restored and he was transported to a nearby hospital where he is currently in a critical condition. CPR was administered to Hamlin and he received oxygen. Hamlin collapsed following his tackle of Cincinnati's T. Higgins midway through the first quarter. The league postponed the game 90 minutes after kickoff. Titans officially named Josh Dobbs their starting quarterback for Saturday's AFC South title game at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Titans also placed safety Andrew Adams on injured reserve. They signed safety Mike Brown to the active roster from the Cleveland Browns practice squad. The last of four bowl games yesterday, Penn State defeated Utah 35-21 in the Rose Bowl. Tulane defeated USC 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl. LSU all over Purdue 63-7 in the Citrus Bowl. Mississippi State defeated Illinois 19-10 in the ReliaQuest Bowl in the first game for Mississippi State following the passing of Mike Leach. Men's college basketball tonight, the Mississippi State Bulldogs go to Thompson Bowling Arena, take on number 8 Tennessee. We will join that game in progress following MAC Talk at 7 o'clock this evening. Wrong Foundation Repair and Waterproofing Needs. Visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the Tuesday edition of Remote Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, with 11-year NFL veteran Ramon Foster, with Kayla Anderson, and our producer, Jonathan Schaefer. Making the show happen with us this morning, I'm Will Bowling. Rod Slay coming up in 15 minutes as we continue to react to the news of the day this morning in the National Football League, a national story that we continue to follow on Damar Hamlin, who, according to a statement for the Buffalo Bills overnight, suffered a cardiac arrest following a hit in the game against the Bengals in Cincinnati yesterday. The Buffalo Bills saying his heartbeat was restored on the field and he was transferred to the UC Medical Center for further testing and treatment. He is currently sedated and listed in critical condition. That update was 2 hours ago, overnight. The most recent update given by The Athletic, who has a live tracker on their website on the front page there to continue updates. And that update was released late last night at 12:48 a.m. Central Time from the Buffalo Bills.
Will, do we have a weather update too, since we're going down updates at this point, my brother?
Nothing new, but we will tell you again that a tornado watch does remain valid until 11 a.m. Central this morning in a number of counties that we will list here for you shortly. So if you're listening for weather updates, this is your opportunity now to turn up the radio a little bit and hear exactly where tornado watches are in effect. But if you're driving around right now, please be careful. I know there are a lot of road closures. There are difficult road situations right now in Middle Tennessee with flooding. What we can tell you is there is a tornado watch that is valid until 11 a.m. Central for 11 counties in Middle Tennessee. That is Cheatham, Davidson, Dixon, Hickman, Humphreys, Lewis, Perry, Robertson, Sumner, Wayne, and Williamson counties. And we'll continue to reset that for you as new information comes to us from the National Weather Service, but it is pouring out there right now, that's for sure.
It is.
And watch for ponding. Actually, it was dark when I got here, and I wasn't going fast, obviously, because you need to slow down. The ponding that's going on, too, extremely dangerous. So just please slow down today if you're out there.
It is. Boy, it's not a Middle Tennessee winter without a little tornado and storm warning, huh? Is it?
No.
Jeez,
Absolutely.
Louise. I'll say this is one of the few times I always say we always get bad weather at night. In the middle of the night, we're up and just struggling. We actually get these warnings in the daytime, and neither one is safe, but at least you can navigate this and be up a little bit.
Well, the latest we know from the National Football League about next steps involving the Bills-Bengals game is that there are no next steps. And the NFL's Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Troy Vincent, spoke to the media on a teleconference last night, saying it never crossed our minds to have teams warm up to resume play. He says that's ridiculous. Vincent adding it would have been insensitive and stresses that it was never a consideration. In addition to that, Jeff Miller is the NFL's Executive Vice President of Communications, Public Affairs, and Policy. He was asked a question about the future of the game, saying, quote, "There's nothing in consideration right now. Our concern is for the player and his well-being. At the appropriate time, I'm sure that we'll have a conversation around the next steps regarding the game." This is a league, guys, that did not cancel a game during COVID. This game continued. This sport moved forward during the pandemic in 2020. And Roger Goodell had to get involved in this and had to make the call at the end of the day to postpone or ultimately cancel this game. We're unsure of what the next steps are at this point, but I think we have to begin with crediting the leadership of Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor for stepping in when the initial knee-jerk reaction was, let's take a couple of minutes, let's reset. You saw Stephon Diggs rallying the troops and huddling everybody up on the Buffalo sideline to try to get them ready to play a football game again. It was apparent quickly that that was not going to be possible. And as soon as these teams went to the locker room, it was clear that the only logical next step was to postpone this game for further notice.
This is also why you see like players go to bat for their teammates too. Like we've had this conversation about you become family like that. I've always had this conversation with my wife or just guys that have wives or girlfriends that come into the league too, and them trying to navigate themselves in. Players, you inherit a family at the snap of a finger. You got to get to know each other, but the family aspect of what you do is strong. You see them every single day, and you get about a month or two break, and you're right back at it, whether it's OTAs or 3 months, you're right back at it. That 3 months that you get off with them, you spend with your family, then it's right back to your other family. So to see those emotions last night be that real, be that up front in front of everybody's face, from guys who are superstars like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Stephon Diggs, to guys that we didn't recognize, as far as face value go. To those guys, they were his brother. That's a family member. And so for the insensitive types that viewed this, hey, let's just play the ball game, you imagine that being somebody in your family, which is what it was. And when it's that impactful, Kayla, Will, listeners, you can't afford to play that. Like, that's devastating.
And I think that had to be really difficult as a player in that moment to, even when Stephon Diggs was trying to rally his team, thinking that somehow they were going to try to play this game is unfathomable. Like, I can't even think about it. But to know that Lisa Salters, part of her great reporting last night, was saying that after that, the players just went back to the benches and just put their heads. I mean, there was no way to collect their thoughts in that moment. It was just like, what is going on? What is happening? And there was no way ever that they were going to play. Yeah. And it's hard because it took so long.
Yep.
I think that was the biggest thing people were wondering about is, why did it take that long? That was a difficult situation for everybody. Yeah. Watching, fans there, the broadcasters, but most importantly, the family of that young man.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting too is I don't want to know this, but I'm sure the players probably told the coach, we can't leave until we know something. That was our situation with Shazier. Yeah. It's like, look, we can't leave until we know something. And players, as brash as we can be and tough and, just as strong as guys can be, the stereotype of that, like you get emotional in those sense. Like coaches, our coach had to like give us a full update. Our head trainer, hey, Norwig, what's going on? Tell us how we're going to move forward with this. We can't just leave Shazier here. And I'm sure that's the same way they felt about Damar Hamlin last night. Coach, we can't just go home right now. But coaches gave us the information. Shazier's situation was very unique, and how, like I said, he was alive. He's not in a coma. And, of course, they told us everything that was going to happen. They flew him back from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh because they didn't want to go up super high with elevation on a helicopter. From Cincinnati to Pittsburgh on a helicopter, and that explains, of course, and you got to give credit to the league on certain things, and that's what the human thing is supposed to be anyway. But to understand the significance of flying guys and why guys were overly concerned like that is a huge part in this.
The GoFundMe for Damar Hamlin's foundation, the Chasing M's Foundation, a toy drive in his hometown of Pittsburgh where he played college for Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers, had a goal of $2,500 over 2 years ago. And 140,000 donations later, that fund has $3.6 million today. So wow. a positive coming out of a truly tragic situation last night for Damar Hamlin, 24-year-old safety for the Buffalo Bills, playing in this last night. More information last night. It was originally reported that the Bills were flying home to Buffalo, but that some players were going to stay. Mm-hmm. I saw a follow-up report that the Buffalo Bills and their entire team have returned home to Buffalo.
They have?
Yes.
Okay.
That they have returned home. So I'll find that source that had that on Twitter this morning. But we talked about it earlier on in the show. It is hard to imagine a situation where this game gets played at all.
Yeah. It's hard to understand that and put that out there for everybody to watch with that kind of lingering over a little bit. When we went back out there, that was time, like as a week. And like I said, we had a guy tell us, hey, it's all right to go play the game. This one right here hits a little different. Administering CPR, as we see it in the movies where water comes out of the mouth and they're breathing like, whoo, man, that's crazy. Lose pulse, heartbeat, all those types of things on a routine play.
Yeah,
that's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. And T. Higgins, a young man from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Oak Ridge High School in East Tennessee, deserves our thoughts and our prayers as well this morning, because I cannot imagine what he is going through as the other end of that hit and that collision that ultimately started a chain reaction. That ultimately results in the hospitalization of 24-year-old safety Damar Hamlin. Much more on this coming up. We'll continue to update you on the weather forecast in Middle Tennessee as well, what you need to know if you are out and about driving in Middle Tennessee. Please be safe as weather picks up. We'll reset all the latest headlines as far as that goes and get Ron Slay's reaction. Coming up next, our 3HL teammate joins us here for his weekly visit on the show. On the other side, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. Tuesday edition of Remote Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. With Remote Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling, covering the Damar Hamlin injury and hospitalization last night throughout the morning today. Also giving you weather updates this morning as there are tornado watches around Middle Tennessee, tornado warnings as well that are being issued by the National Weather Service. And we'll start with this before we get to Ron Slay, who's here in studio with us, coming up here in just a moment. Tornado watch remains valid until 11 a.m. this morning in 11 counties. That's Cheatham, Davidson, and Dixon counties, as well as Hickman, Humphreys, Lewis, Perry, Robertson, Sumner, Wayne, and Williamson counties. That is a tornado watch this morning, and we'll continue to keep you updated as often as we can as new information comes to us. Good morning, Ron Slay.
What's happening, man? Happy
Welcome.
New Year. Happy New Year, good
Thank you.
people.
Happy New Year, man.
Out this thing.
Can't lie. Ron walked in here, I smiled, man. I was like, yes, on a gloomy,
I think you brought the air conditioning with you.
He
did.
I should have. It's hot out there, too. Hot in that hallway. Hey, man, it's nasty out there, too, man.
It is.
Like, I had to jump off on 65 and jump off on Wedgewood and come
Yeah.
on the back way.
Did you?
Luckily, I just know these back streets out here.
Nashville
My
native.
backsliding days.
Shout out.
But no, this, hey, man, be careful, dog, because like I heard KK talking about, man, it's ponding out there,
Yeah.
man. And before you know it, you'll be up in one of them puddles and
That's tough.
then
It's
just got to pray.
always gonna be that friggin' little bitty car that's
I
speeding.
know.
You told me about your hydroplaning thing. You gotta.
that was in
Oh,
Impala.
really?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was wild.
That's a wild
was
story,
wild.
Ron Slay.
It's right there, man, on 65, man. Coming, it's always ponding right there for some reason there, and then what is it on 40? When you coming back into the city around Fessel's Lane.
Yeah, that's
it's
the other
terrible
spot.
over there, man. Like it's bad. I went sideways from the fast lane. Luckily, it was at night, and wasn't many cars coming. I went from the fast lane all the way to the slow lane sideways.
Jeez.
Like
Yeah.
horizontal. Like I was straight, then went. I mean, I was
Jeez.
looking this way,
In a heavy
looking
car.
to the right in a heavy car, 94 Impala. Yeah, just came out and swung back around on its own. You know what I mean? When they talking about Jesus take the wheel,
I was going to say.
Yeah.
he
God's
sure took that
providence.
thing, man, because I ain't had no control, man. Hey, that was the scariest thing. Hey, man, I was just looking at the review like, where are all the other cars? Like,
That was nothing.
how was
else.
it nobody else going on the interstate? You know what I mean?
Did
So-
you pull over, stop, and just regroup?
No, I just kind of,
Both
two
hands?
hands. Yeah, what is it? 10
That-
and 2.
right,
Yeah,
and
I
you're
was
clinching
like,
at that
yeah,
point.
Yeah, I'm like,
White
oh
knuckle.
man.
Yeah,
it was
white
different.
knuckle.
It was different, man.
I had that a couple times in Maryland Way and
A
Brentwood.
couple times, Will?
No, well, not that bad.
That's
Oh,
what I was
about
going
to
to say.
say.
We usually stay from behind the car.
What
Yeah.
are we talking about?
A couple of times where you like lose control just for a split second and
Yeah.
have to deal with like standing water on Maryland Way and Brentwood.
No, it's real now.
I'm a pretty cautious
Oh,
driver.
I was about
Yeah.
to say. I
You know me. I'm not a-
I know who's not driving the Sprinter van.
You better know it.
Nah, you're good.
That will not be William.
Do not be Will. Like,
We're good. We're good.
dang.
We'll like to ride in the back seat anyway and watch games.
He
Try
do.
to watch soccer game back there. We ain't no soccer play in here. We're watching a movie
I'm
first.
always when I'm with my whole
Before
family.
anything else.
I'm usually the navigator in the front seat helping
Yeah.
like one of my parents who's
Okay.
driving.
Are you?
Or keeping
I
people
drove-
awake.
Yeah, that's
That's the other.
I'm
You've
good at
always
that.
got to have that
I'm
wingman.
I'm very good at that.
That's an
And
important.
since
Yeah.
you talk
Do
so
that.
much, I think you're just keeping them awake by talking all the time.
Somebody's got to do it.
No, you got to be DJing. You got to be DJing, navigating, finding food spots.
Yeah.
That's your priority. You know what I mean?
And conversation.
Conversation, topics.
I
Yeah.
ain't
Not
gonna
just-
lie. Anytime I get in the car with almost anybody, especially Ron, I'm like, all right, what are we talking about? I'll not talk about something.
Yeah.
Just to talk about it on the ride.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of like how we save things
Yeah,
for
we'll
air
save
on the
that.
show.
Yeah, we'll save that.
I'll
We'll
say
save
that.
Whenever we would like go on longer trips with our photogs as a reporter,
Yeah.
it's usually just you and the photog in the car. And on those trips, I always felt extremely bad after a long day, like to go sleep. To go to sleep. I was like, I need to
Like,
stay
this ain't
up.
fair. Yeah.
Whatever it takes, just to make sure that I'm
them
there
out.
for that
Yep.
guy, for my guy or my gal
Yeah.
who's who's driving.
I'm a terrible car sleeper, though. You never have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not going to happen.
it's time to go down. Let's go down.
Nah, I
Right.
can't do it.
I tell
you
my
not?
dog, I remember we were going to Florida or something.
It was a Florida basketball game,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yep.
Yeah.
I remember I told Savage after, hey, man, listen, you straight? I got to catch him a couple, man. You know what I mean? I'll be back in a minute.
I'll be back.
Yeah, let me go down about 30 minutes, and then I check on my boy. You know what I mean? We get
Yep.
back riding, but yeah.
You got your Red Bull? You got everything ready? All
I'll
right.
be
It's on.
ready to go.
It's on.
The car is my moment of just peace for
Yeah,
the
we're a
most
good little
part.
tandem up there, though.
It
I'm
is.
going to be real.
No, I had a moment over the weekend. We were driving to the Orange Bowl, and I was navigating my dad who was driving, and my whole family, all 5 of us, were in the car. My sister was like, "Will, whatever you're listening to right now, I think it's just for you. I don't think any of the rest of us are needing this right now."
Yeah.
Because I was actually playing before, and Slay knows this. Like, I gotta get hyped before a game. We were driving
Right.
around Baton Rouge. Like, you cater the playlist to who's in the car.
Yeah.
In this moment, I was not. I was playing the Swiper Boy Football 2016 from Ronaldo Woolridge, and my family was like, "What in the
Only
world is
Yeah,
this?"
Yeah, no, this ain't the time.
I will say, when I'm in the car with the family, I do hate compromising my playlist.
Oh, no, yeah,
that
I
is
refuse to do it.
The
tough.
driver get to choose.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but when Moms is in the car, like Moms has been in the car with me before on a long ride,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Kayla, what is this stuff?"
Hey.
And I'm like, "Mom, it's keeping me awake.
Yeah, we trying
it's
to get
getting
there.
me
ain't
going."
we? You want to get there? Well,
You know?
sit back, relax.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, Slay, there's so many different discussions we could have and different ways we could go with this, but I wanted to start with just kind of the news of the morning and Damar Hamlin's tragic collapse and injury last night in Cincinnati. And we mentioned this as well, and I want to give credit to all of you just for sharing your experiences and kind of y'all's poignant words on being in that battlefield and knowing what that is like. And I'm sure you've been in scary situations with injuries, and you've battled injuries and come back, and you've seen this from both sides too. But I want to make sure people know, and I mentioned this in the last hour, we have a lot of fun on this show. We have a lot of fun with you on this show.
Yeah.
You've lived a lot of experiences, and you've worn a lot of different hats, and you've got as much wisdom in sports on and off the field as anybody I've been around. So I want to give you that credit on the front end, but just want to give you kind of the space to react to this and to share your perspective because, it's a valuable one.
Yeah.
Just considering, what that's like and kind of seeing a brother go down in that way.
Yeah, I think it humans the people that you thought were that are superheroes. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the biggest thing because y'all touched on a whole lot of it, man. Pretty much everything. And I mean, since yesterday, listening to Ryan Clark and everybody, like I think they all hit it on the head. I just think that another part of it is you see these guys and girls and these athletes, man, that go into the games and man, you got something called a mold that you get into.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think back to what's my movie took place in Memphis.
Hustle and Flow?
Hustle and Flow. You know what I'm saying? He always told him, man, don't mess with my mold, man. Don't mess with my mold.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you're in that mold, don't mess with it. So anything can throw it off. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you battle tested going through different scenarios. Like, think about it, man. You got people going out there with broken legs, and you able to snap back in your mold.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Torn ACLs and like just imagine walking down the street and somebody break their leg. Or you in work and somebody just fall down the steps and their leg is broke, like bone hanging out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sticking
Yeah.
out. And you come across that. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
Let me call 911. Cool. Get everybody here. Comfort the person. Then go back to the studio to do my job. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about that. Man, these people that are athletes go back to work to the same collision. They're going to go right back down to the steps and run down the steps where the same person just broke their leg. You know what I'm saying? So it's wild to be able to see that mold mess with and them try to snap back into it where you saw Stephon Diggs rallying his guys because that's your mold. You got calluses built up in your mind and in your mental to get back into it. Hey, man, come on, y'all. We got to get back right. Soon as he's okay, we're going to get back to it. And then the human part kick back in like, dang, he might not be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You start seeing him cry again. It's like, this ain't that bone sticking out the leg.
Yeah.
This ain't the ACL or somebody helping him up or the little cart coming out. It's an ambulance
Even
out
a
here.
knockout.
You know what I'm saying? Even a knockout. It's like, at some point, they're going to be all right. Hit him with the smell of salt, sit him up, ask him ABCs, whatever you got to do, get him back right and walk him out the ring. It's cool. This right here, man, that's different, man. That's different. You know what I mean? And I done been a part of a lot of things, dog, and to see that, to see a young man like that down on the field and both teams hit the field and guys crying, that's different, dog, because it take a lot. It take a lot to mess with an athlete's mental. There's a lot of strong people in all fields, you know what I mean? But I'm talking from personal experience. You know what I mean? A dog lost his mom and went back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's different. You're in a different mode. You know what I'm saying? You don't get time to sit there and grieve. And for that to happen on live TV, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's different, man. So I just want people to be able to understand that it's a human element to it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You see Big John getting smacked on TV to get ready for a game. He's getting in his mode. So ain't nothing that can mess with that mode unless it's a situation like this. Like, and then it shadows all that.
Oh,
you back to a human, you like, golly, like this is serious. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how to put it in the words or anything, man, but just understand, man, it's a human element to it too. You know what I mean? And people respect that they go out there on the battlefield, and yes, not war at all, but the entertainment value of it is different. When you look at these people and they step off the field, you know what I mean, and get to go with their families and things of that nature. Like, that's why these guys take it hard when a reporter pulls Giovanni Bernard aside and talk to him that way. You feel what I'm saying?
100%.
It's different, you know what I mean? So
I'll never forget Shazer's situation again. Just grab, like going back across around the 30, 40-yard line where he got injured.
Right.
Like, we're on the spot.
Yeah.
It was just an ambulance. We're on the spot.
Yeah.
So, like, the mental aspect of it, which is, I think if you ask any elite athlete, they'll tell you it ain't the physical.
Sure.
I think that's what made Shazer's situation so okay with us or Inky. The physical part of it, because they're strong-minded, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's the mental side of, like, we got to go do this again, and I just saw this.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why I even wonder about, going to this Titans practice today in that locker room. Like, you don't know what these connections are with these players or just how they're dealing with it as a player in the game.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm not that.
Yeah.
And it just, it's tough all around for anybody, whether they knew him or not. You played the game, you know? Like, you guys
and
see things different.
Kayla, y'all, this is where I was with it. I know, and Ron gonna sign off on this too. Genetically, I know I have a back issue.
Yeah.
Ron genetically has one.
Yep.
Bernardo has one. It's in us.
Yeah.
So it hit home different a little bit more with Shazer's situation because I was like, I've had an epidural.
Yeah.
That year, that may have been that year. I had the video I showed y'all. I got a shot in my neck, a needle that's probably about 5-6 inches long. But guess what? Suit back up.
Right.
Go play the game. Because
but your mind goes in a different place.
When I saw that,
right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, it does.
Yeah. I immediately watching that, man, you think back, and I wasn't watching the game live when it happened as far as what I'm going to get this example of, but Hank Gathers, man, I automatically went back to that. Like, he went up for a dunk, alley-oop, caught the dunk, came down. Yeah. They were setting up the press. He's on the second line of the press and ready to deny the ball. And I believe a timeout was called, and he just stood up out his defensive stance, took 2 steps, and collapsed.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And fell down. They came out there with him. He tried to raise up. They told him chill for a second. And that quick, man, things like it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it when this happened. But like Savage said earlier, you're lucky to be in that environment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you hate for that to happen, but, man, you got the best of the best surrounding you right there, and you know you're going to be in good hands. And you know what I'm saying?
In the urgency last night of that medical staff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, you could feel it.
That's amazing.
You know?
That's amazing. I had a partner, John Higgins, that played with me. Todd Helton's nephew or cousin, I believe his nephew, Hunter Helton. He was 14 years old up at Central High School. And he passed out and collapsed in practice, cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm.
And John Higgins,
Really?
Yeah, hit him with the AD and brought him back, and they got him to the hospital, and he was back joking and laughing, you know what I mean, in a matter of no time. But
So
it
it made it all right for y'all, though.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it just went to your point, like, if you in the youth sports, man, take that stuff serious.
Yeah.
That CPR class?
Take all of that serious.
That
Sure.
little baby doll they give you where you, like,
Yeah.
you got to punch
I think more of
the
us need
back.
to be trained on
Yeah,
that.
just to be real.
Just-
Yeah, because it could change, man.
Yeah.
Luckily, he knew what to do.
Wow.
Brought the kid. This is a 14-year-old kid, man, just out there playing what he loved.
Wow.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, and he was a high school coach, fresh out of college.
Wow.
You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
just graduated 2003. This is 2012 when it happened.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? So you get those classes in college and everything, but luckily he took it serious as a high school coach. Was able to go get the defibrillator, hit him, boom, bring him back, and everybody got there. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, good perspective from Ron Slay with us this morning for his weekly visit on the show. And I think you're so right to mention the modes that these guys have to go into. And,
Sure.
you know, we're talking just a second ago about hydroplaning and cars and the flooding with that. I mean, you see a car in front of you go through and not make it, then you go somewhere else. You take a different route.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Going back in that mode, you see a guy go down with a horrific injury on the 35-yard line. You're not taking a different route. You're going right back to the 35-yard line. You're going into the same collision. That's what makes this so difficult, I think, for so many. And it makes it hard for us to really talk about games and talk about a battle for the AFC South on Saturday and talk about the Orange Bowl. All of that just seems so insignificant this morning. But
that's why it's important when they put them on the gurneys or the stretchers or whatever. When you do that thumbs up,
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
do you know what that means to
Yeah.
your brothers and the fans and everybody? Your family at home, like, dude, you like, man. I remember getting the message when you messed your knee up
Yeah.
in training camp. I'm like, oh no, hold up, wait a minute. You know what I mean? I'm texting, going crazy. And I'm like, let me hit my boy, man. He gotta hit me back. He gotta hit me, man. He hit back. It was like, I'm gonna be cool. And I was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's a knee.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, hey, man.
Crazy.
The human element is serious, man. Remember that, people.
We'll continue to reflect and react to the headlines coming up next with Ron Slay for one final segment here this morning. We'll wrap things up on the other side. Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone. One final segment this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by all 4 Seasons Garage Doors. Special guest Ron Slay every single Tuesday morning at 9:20. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling with you. Jonathan Schaefer, the best producer in the world, making the show happen.
In the world, Craig.
So, Slade, do you want the floor to still roast me for my incorrect prediction about the Orange Bowl?
You know what, Will? It's it come a time in every man's life where he got to make a decision.
Okay.
And you know what? I mean, you made yours. You know what I'm saying? And this is my thing, Will. At some point, you got to believe what your eyes see.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I told you this when we was at LSU. Will, what you're seeing, you got to believe it. Don't revert back onto what you've been accustomed to watching the Vols. Watch what you're seeing right now on the field. You got some dogs out there.
Yeah.
You got some dogs. Now, in question was the accuracy of Milton.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, there was no questions. You had guys that were going to come back and play against a freshman. Because, see, a lot of people got fooled by this ACC championship. A lot of people got fooled. Panzik was one of them, too.
I'll raise my hand.
He got fooled.
Yeah.
But what you can't do is let that right there convince you that that's the same as the SEC championship. And, yeah, I'm going to go conference on this. Yeah, we big bad conference. Yeah, it is. And more so than not, it's a freshman that was walking into that game. And what you got to see was freshman mistakes take place. Yeah, it's okay. First 8, 10, 12 plays when it's scripted, you can figure it out. Even if you go 3 and out, you go to the sideline. Hey, man, we got some more plays to run. But once you get in the thick of things of the game, that's where I can get you. Veterans are key to the game. Seniors, juniors, redshirt juniors, people that ain't got the COVID year, they bring something different to the game. This is a freshman walking in there. Wasn't no way he was going to go out there and have a Stetson Bennett performance. It just ain't going to happen. On that stage, no. I'm sorry. Maybe we got away with it in the Boom Boom Room Bowl or something like that. Yeah, would have been a lot of people there. We would lock the door, kept some people out. You feel what I'm saying?
We didn't make that bowl happen.
That couldn't happen, man. So, yes, Will, you get 2 slaps on the wrist with the long ruler.
I
The long ruler that they used to have in school.
The meter.
I remember those.
Yeah.
On the yardstick.
Yeah,
The yardstick.
The
Long
yardstick.
distance, yep. And then see, at some point, Will, if it happen again, we're going to make you put 2 hands on the chalkboard. And we're going to bring out the powder with the air holes in it. And you're going to get 2 slaps on the backside. Pop!
They only gave you 2?
Yeah, no, I had 8 one time.
No, you did.
I
thought it was a 3-hit limit.
Tell Coach Fitzgerald that.
That's why you're the man you are today.
Exactly. But yeah, Will,
better or worse.
go Vols, man. Come on, you got to believe, baby.
Okay, so
Will.
the
I couldn't believe when you picked this on our show. I said, no, Will didn't. I'm going to let him live, and I'm going to get him.
The one caveat I'll give you is that when we were at the LSU game, my batter Vol syndrome was showing.
A lot of it.
It was.
Yes.
I'm getting there. And I had the conversation like, man, I just don't know in this environment, can they do this? This actually did not come from that place.
Okay.
I needed to see Joe Milton beat a really good team and beat a guy who I thought was a really good quarterback now. I think Cade Klubnik, could turn into a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not right now.
No, he's going to be really good. He's talented.
Right. That was where I was coming from on that. This wasn't even the batter Vol syndrome showing. This was trying to take just all the past out of it and just look at that game. And Joe Milton proved me wrong.
But guess what, though, Will?
I'll give him credit.
This is what you got to take into an account, too. Clemson was missing their defensive front.
That's right.
You had just talked about, and this is what made me be like, what is Will talking about? You just talked about how they ran all over Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was going to be a show for them. So you had to know that Clemson was going to be prepared for the run game.
That's right.
So guess what? Milton, all you got to do is take your time. Ain't nobody getting to you.
Now,
Cooper came back. Spraggins was there. Darnell played. Like, his people intact. They okay.
That's right.
They had time to prepare. Come on,
and don't you guys say this in the SEC? It just means more.
Come on, Caleb. What's wrong with this? Listen, we're going to try. Listen, this is what we're going to do. Hey, if you do that again, we're going to put you in a little crate like Madagascar.
Right.
That's one of my favorite little cartoons, Madagascar. Yeah, boy. Yeah, we're going to put him in that little box and put him on the plane and let the little muskrat take him on up in there.
Take him wherever you go.
You got to go on and go, Will. If you do that one more time, you got to go on and go.
Or take him to a better place.
Well,
make him wear Vandy hat.
We'll drop him off right there.
We wouldn't.
We'll drop him right there. We'll drop him right there. We will helicopter drop him.
Punishment.
We will helicopter drop him right into that stadium, right on the V,
and
not the star V.
I feel like we can outsource helicopter use.
That's cruel
we can
and
find
unusual
somebody to let us borrow a helicopter. That won't be bad.
Just make sure
I'm sure you know some people.
Make sure the right sticker's on the box.
Clark Lee, we use Clark Lee's. He got a red one.
He do got a red one.
Make sure the right sticker's on the box.
That joke's getting old. You need a new one.
I don't.
Papa Bowler was good. I know Papa Bowler was looking at you like, boy, you lost your man. I know Mama Bowler was, boy, she just shaking her head.
My mom hates Clemson as much as any human on the planet because she went to Georgia. My mom went in that game. She goes, I'm ready to get in a fight. I'm ready to go.
She should have fought us.
Mama bully.
She should have fought the baby boy.
My mom was like, I can't stand these guys. I'm ready to go. And I was like, all right, well, I can imagine that.
And then we were driving. That seatbelt around his neck on the way home. Boy, don't you
right. The one thing, hey, I was at least right on Aaron Beasley. You asked me about players. I said Aaron Beasley's going to have a day.
Yeah.
I'm telling Claire.
He did.
I follow her now. I'm telling Claire.
The real bowler.
Ron Slay, thanks for hanging out with us, and always appreciate your perspective, even when it's trying to drop me off to Vandy.
You deserved it, Will. Pan too. You ain't going alone. Pan going with you.
Okay.
Pan going with him?
Yeah,
put enough holes in the box for us.
Pick Clemson too.
Coming up next, the Buck Rising Show takes over. We are back at it at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Tons of football to discuss. The latest on Damar Hamlin as the week continues. And words of wisdom now for Ramon Foster on the way home today.
Oh, it should have been used last night to somebody that has a 4-letter name that talks on a different network nationally.
Say that.
Remember, your Twitter fingers and your mic, I can't wait to hear you rant about him at some point. It's always hot.